Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to stage one. So much has happened already, and there's so much more still to come. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on stage one. Don't forget, if you've got some comments, you've got the comment box over at the side. I'm probably pointing in the wrong direction. It's 50-50 lottery. But use the comment box because that's the best way for us to know exactly what it is that you want us to ask our next presenter, who is Lee Matthew Jackson. He's got a presentation entitled How to Get Things Done and Beat Procrastination, which is something I honestly need to learn. Lee is the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast. He is a dad of 3 awesome kids and a happy agency owner at Event Engine.
Having gone through some very dark times in his agency and personal journey, he has a passion for teaching other agency owners how to fall back in love with their business again and develop a lifestyle that suits them. You'll soon learn that Lee has zero interest in selling you anything or helping you from making millions. If he can help you get time with your family through the content he makes freely available, then he is a very happy Lee.
Hi, my name is Lee Matthew Jackson. I am ridiculously excited to be with you today here at WordFest. Thank you for having me. And I hope by the end of this talk, you will be inspired to create a good habit, to break a bad habit, or perhaps to achieve something you've been dying to achieve for years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my presentation and let's work things through how to get things done and to beat procrastination. First of all, let's give you a little bit of history. Who am I? Well, my name is Lee Matthew Jackson. I'm brand ambassador for Cloudways. I'm an event organizer and I'm an agency owner. That means I have Event Engine, which is an agency for event organizers, specifically professional conference organizers, and we've a range of software and a large team looking after them. I also run the agency Trailblazer brand, which includes an event, a podcast, and a YouTube channel. I'm a Cloudways maverick, which means I show up on live streams almost weekly interviewing people from around the world with Pecha and with Jan. We have an amazing time. Highly recommend you get involved with that. I'm also a husband and a father, which is pretty much a full-time job in its own right. And finally, I am a procrastinator extraordinaire. I procrastinate a lot, and yet somehow I manage to get things done. And I want to share with you how I get things done, how I live with that procrastination, and how I somehow bumble on through life regardless. So if you are a procrastinator like me, I highly recommend you stick with me. Now, let's go into the time machine. It's one of my favorite places to go, really to look at where I was, then look at where I am and kind of work out with you how you can also get to the same place. Where I was, I worked very long hours. I was doing 18 hours a day in my old agency. I was even working weekends. I was so tired that I would struggle with addiction in so many different areas of my life. I was working so hard that I would let people down because I wasn't organized enough. I was taking on too much work. I was working too many hours. The quality of my work was diminishing, and I was just letting people down left, right, and center. That included my teammates. That included my clients. I was overpromising. I was under-delivering. I felt rubbish about myself, and yet I was still saying yes to more and more things. I was essentially trying to please everybody and unfortunately was pleasing pretty much nobody. I never finished anything. And unfortunately, I wasn't achieving any of my goals. So what changed? And I'd encourage you, if you are right now kind of half listening and looking at a website or maybe looking at Facebook, whilst I talk, this talk is for you because that's me. I'm that person who sits and half listens and looks at Facebook and kind of half takes it in. I'd recommend try closing the browser and have a think. What changed for me? Let me share what changed. What changed was I recognized that changing was going to take time and that there was a process. The first thing I had to accept was that I am a work in progress. I am not the finished article. I am a work in progress, just like a sculptor creates something from a lump of rock. I'm essentially a lump of rock, and it's going to take a very long time for me to chisel out all of the issues and to become that better person that I so desire to be. Therefore, it's okay to take my time. It's okay that things aren't happening perhaps as quickly as I want them, or perhaps as quickly as they appear to happen for everybody else. So I accepted that I'm a work in progress. It's going to take time. And I importantly forgave myself for my past. I forgave myself for not achieving my dreams. I forgave myself for letting people down. I forgave myself for not being that incredible, productive, successful individual that I was dreaming of all of those years and have never quite achieved. I also accepted that actually some procrastination is actually okay. Jumping off and spending 20 minutes on the PlayStation for a little while as a little bit of a break and then coming back to something is actually phenomenally healthy. And it's something I will do very often. I might write a blog post, go do a bit of PlayStation, then come back and design the artwork, because why the hell not? And I feel a lot better for the break. So I did accept that some of the procrastination that I'm doing can be a little bit healthy. I did recognize as well that I was going to continue to make mistakes, but because I'd already forgiven myself for the past mistakes, I knew that some mistakes are okay. And I also realized that it is never too late to change. You see, don't you, stories of people in their 80s or their 90s going back to university, learning new skills. Heck, I'm in my 30s. It is totally not too late to change. If you're in your 60s, it is not too late to change or to learn a new skill. And if you're in your 20s, heck, life is just beginning. So I began to map out what it was that I really wanted to achieve. You hear people, don't you, talking about their why. Why are you in business? What are you all about? What is it that you want to achieve? And it is those dreams that do help to drive us. Unfortunately, if you are a procrastinator extraordinaire like me, then it's very rare that you'll ever see your dreams fulfilled. My procrastination led to those really long hours of work because I was never 100% focused. I was never 100% committed. I wasn't able to get those things done in order to move the needle and get me that little bit closer to the dreams that I had. So, what are your dreams? Ask yourself these questions. What do I dream of? Do I want to become an author? What are those dreams? Do I want to be a gazillionaire or whatever it is? Don't be embarrassed. Start to write down what are those dreams. And then importantly, what would you feel if you achieved your dreams? If you became a best-selling author, what would you feel if you achieved that? What would be those feelings? It's actually really great to write that down as well, because heck, if that sounds attractive, that's certainly going to help drive you towards that goal. Next, how would it change your life? I don't know, let's say I want to become a YouTuber. How would that change my life? How would I feel about being a YouTuber and putting a video out every single week? And how would that change my life and my business and my relationships? Write it down. Have a think about it. How do you think it would change your life? And then out of all those dreams, what do you think sounds the most attractive, therefore, or even the most achievable, therefore you can go after that? Let's have a look at some examples of dreams. I've already dropped a couple. One would be to write a book. Another would be launch a YouTube channel, start a business, maybe move abroad. We're working on that right now. Break an addiction, maybe even make a good habit. Lose weight, I'm working on that as well. That's a long process. Create a positive habit. Whatever your goals, whatever your dreams, I would recommend to just choose one thing. One thing that's going to have a real positive effect on your life. Something that you can feel truly excited about. Something that you think is achievable in your current skill set, that you think, I can actually do this. I can actually write that book. I can actually create that podcast and do one episode a month and talk about this particular subject. And something that you know you'll begin to see the results fairly soon. For example, going out for a run and seeing those results over a period of time. Now, the way I've done this is to use something called a streak. It allows you to gamify your dreams. You want to achieve something, therefore you can break it down into small achievable actions and you can get that thing nailed. Be that to lose a few pounds, be that to write a book. I've used streaks to write the first draft of my book. I now need to use them to get the editing done so I can actually publish the darn thing. But that was thousands of words on a particular subject, and I was able to write so many words a day to get that first step done. I was able to break a personal addiction in my life. That's phenomenal for me. That's 900 plus days now, free. That's amazing. I was never able to do something like that. I was able to begin meditation. I'm 700 and something days into meditation now, which has been a massive boost for my personal mental health. I've also been able to complete multiple reading challenges. For those of you who know me, I really value my faith. And one thing I'd never done in my nearly 40 years on this planet is read the entire Bible. It's a really big book, and to be honest, it's actually a little bit boring at times. Let's be honest. Yet, using streaks and by gamifying that process, I was able to get through the Bible, and I'm actually now nearly through it twice. So if you think I spent 20 to 30 years procrastinating and never really reading the whole book, and then using streaks, I've been able to read it twice in a couple of years just by reading one chapter a day. Something really, really simple. You see, small, achievable actions lead to big change. They build up. Just like 500 words a day of a book until you hit your target of 30,000, 40,000, whatever that is. Each small achievable action will eventually lead to the dream that you are going after, completing that book, removing that habit, creating the habit like I have of reading. A small achievable action will build up to something huge in your life. We so often make the mistake, don't we, of saying, I'm going to complete this really big, important book about business. Maybe it's the 7 highly effective habits of entrepreneurs, whatever it's called. I know it's a really big book, and it's actually a bit of a dull read. At least I tried to read it, and there's a lot of big, long words in there that I don't really understand. And I would often get really excited and say, right, I'm going to do this. And I would hit like 5 chapters of it and be exhausted. And then I would never read anything of that book again because I'd just done too much. Whereas if I had have simply applied streaks, which means I do a little bit each and every day, I could have gotten through that book in, yes, maybe 3 or 4 months. But I would have gotten through that book rather than trying to jump into that and trying to do it all in one go. Instead, I found I would procrastinate before ever going back to chapter 6 of that book. And in fact, to this day, I've never actually finished reading the particular book mentioned. I can't actually remember the title for the life of me. So I'd encourage you to choose one thing from your dreams, again, that will have that positive effect on your life, that you are truly excited about, that is reasonable within your skill set, and that you will begin to see the results. Let's take a look at planning your streak. Here's an example of what I did for my book. I recognized I wanted to write a book. Therefore, I broke that down into 500 words a day, and I set myself a target of 30,000 words for my first draft. That meant that within 60 days, or 2 months roughly, I had written an entire manuscript for a book. Because I was tracking it each and every day, I could see that number, that streak, building up, which meant I didn't want to break the streak. I wanted to just keep going. So when you're using a streak, you can break down whatever it is into a simple process. Again, with a book you want to read, perhaps it's just going to be a chapter a day, or if they're really long chapters, perhaps it's going to be 3 pages a day. Another example might be tracking how many days you're abstaining from a particular addiction. Or finally, if you want to lose weight, and again, you want to do something that's small and achievable, maybe you're going for a 10-minute walk every 2 days. You can simply break down whatever that is. And importantly, like I said, track your progress. I'll make sure I share a link to an Airtable that I use, which is super simple. In fact, it automatically monitors your progress if you're doing something daily, and you don't have to enter something in every day. As long as you get it done, you don't have to put an end date in. Super simple, and it gives you your streak number. But there are also other ways you can do it. You can do it via a notebook, just logging every single day that you do that particular activity. You could monitor it in a spreadsheet, very similar to the Airtable that I'll leave a link for. And finally, you could use an app, for example, like Dailyo. I've used the app for a very long time to allow me to track every single day that I do meditation and that I read a particular book. This allows me to build up that number streak so that I can gamify what I'm doing. I don't want to break my streak. It was the same with the book. I didn't want to get into maybe 30 days and then realize that I'd missed a day of writing and have to start that streak over again. I'd carry on with the book. That would be great, but it would be really sucky to lose my 30-day streak that I'd built up. It's a really powerful and effective way of gamifying what you're doing and tracking what you're doing. It's also important as well to celebrate your success and provide yourself with some form of reward. For example, when I did the first draft of my book, I celebrated that publicly. I shared that with friends. I went for a meal. I had a great time. Get yourself a gift. Maybe go for a meal. Maybe journal the feelings that you have about reaching that particular moment. For me, I know I'm going to celebrate when I reach 1,000 days of abstaining. Things like that, I think, are really, really powerful. If you can rinse and repeat, set yourself some milestones for celebrations, that is going to keep you going. And just remember that you absolutely have got this. Now, I'd love to do a very quick recap, and please do connect with me as well if you have any questions on this. But let's just scoot back and try and do the Lee Jackson patented quick roundup that I do on most of my podcasts. We talked about this. We said, hey, what are your dreams? We understand that we're procrastinators and we can forgive ourselves for that, but let's log down those dreams and let's pick one that we really, really resonate with. We then said, hey, these are a few examples. We then said, choose one of those things, that will have a real impact on your life that you could really get behind. We then said, gamify that, i.e. use a streak. We encouraged you with this wonderful sentence of small achievable actions lead to big change. We reminded you, pick that item that will have a great impact on your life that you can really get behind. And we told you to break that thing down, i.e. plan that streak. We then told you to get on board by doing it and tracking it on a day-to-day basis so that you can see your progress and give yourself the relevant rewards at the milestones that you see fit, be that 30 days, 60 days, be it a week, whatever that be. Celebrate and share your success. Remember that small, achievable actions lead to big change. Guys, thank you so much. You can find out more about me over on agencytrailblazer.com. I've run a podcast for many years now, despite being a procrastinator. Thankfully, running a podcast is something I can do, which is a small, achievable action every single week, and then I can put that episode out. Super easy, super simple, and have been able to grow a great community. Again, that's evidence that over a long period of time, small achievable actions really can lead to great things. You are freaking awesome. You can do great things. We have time. Let's use that time wisely and do the things that we really love. Thank you so much for listening and have an awesome day.
Hey.
Gotta love the energy, haven't you?
Yeah, that was great, Lee. Thank you for that.
Thank you. My lighting's all gone. Oh, there we go. That's better.
Oh, yeah.
I was a bit too warm.
Yes. That was a really nice talk, Lee. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, buddy.
This is something, well, I can't speak for Dan, but I'm going to speak for myself. This is something that I suffer from horribly. I sit in this room. I'm in charge of my own destiny. And I'm quite good at getting distracted, just finding something extraordinarily unimportant, which becomes extraordinarily important.
Yes. And then you have to do it not so well at the end.
Yes, exactly. So, there's a lot in there. I confess, I've not really used the whole streak thing before myself, but I know that my children, for example, they have like chat streaks with friends of theirs, and they it really means a lot to them. They get to the end of the day, and if they fail to talk to this one individual, then they make it a real point to go and write something, no matter how small, just to keep the streak going. It's kind of confusing yourself into making something meaningful that might not otherwise have been, and apparently it works really effectively. Certainly you.
Well, especially on Snapchat, people have got like thousands. Like they've been going for several years. To the extent, I remember when I used to do Snapchat streaks that I'd get panicked messages off my friends were like, Lee, we're going to break the streak. Or I'd actually get a phone call. I was like, this is incredible. That was actually what kind of led to me going, hang on a second, why don't I use these for me? And use a streak to get a few things done and just get ridiculous about, I don't want to break the streak, so I'm just going to keep going. So yeah, it really works.
Yeah, we had a lot of commentary in the chat as the session went on. I don't know if you saw those passing by. There weren't many that were prefaced as questions, but there's lots of things in here. I wonder if Aaron might be able to put up some of these ones. So, for example, the first one came over from Ivan. Apologies, Ivan, if that's not how you say your name. And he says, this is going right back at the start of your talk when you were just simply describing the huge amount of time that you feel that you'd lost over the years, saying he did the same thing in his agency, all time at the office, too many hours, just overdoing it.
I remember those days. I was doing 18-hour days, and I was working weekends.
Did you at the time have any sense? I mean, did it sort of creep up on you, or did you always work extraordinarily hard and then decide at one point, actually, there's a lot of things that are important to me that are missing from my life? So, for example, for some people, I suspect that 18 hours a day will be manageable. It is not for me. Absolutely not. But there may be some people in here who think, well, 18 hours, I can do that for a period of time. What was the thing which made you say enough? Was there one trigger moment?
It started because of the culture of previous employment. I used to work for big tech in the States, and there was a culture in those companies of you worked really late, and that showed how good you were at your job because you were there late and you signed off late, or you sent emails near midnight. So that kind of carried on into the business when I developed the agency with my business partners, and I felt I had to just do all the hours ever to make us the most successful business. But then it got to the point where we had to work all the time for two reasons. Number one, feast and famine. And number two, I wasn't really very productive because of the procrastination. No matter how much pressure I was under, I'd stare at the screen for 2 hours, moving Facebook around the screen rather than actually doing the work that I needed to do. And it really was, my... several issues, but it was mostly just conversations with my wife, who was like, I'm lonely. And I'm like, oh crap. And it's just like that simple sentence can really change your mind very, very quickly. I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my family. I'd fallen out with my elder daughter as well, which really, really sucked. And I was like, we've got to change things. I've got to make better decisions and choose what to work on. And it's not the business necessarily, or the client's fault necessarily, of which I was always blaming. A lot of it was just me, not being able to manage my time and kind of lying to myself and again procrastinating. Because that's the other thing. I was doing things I didn't really enjoy doing. So when you don't enjoy doing it, you're definitely going to put it off till last minute.
Yeah, it's curious. I'm just looking at the screen. So there's obviously myself, Dan, and Lee. All three of us, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, are in their own homes.
Yes.
And I feel that is a real, the leash can run long if you're in your own home. If you've got to go to an office and there's a real moment in time when you clock out or leave the building and go home, you are totally separated in space and time from work and home. They are totally different. But all I have to do is walk through that door and, in this direction in here, and I'm back. And it's really easy to fall into the trap of just doing another 10 minutes. I'll only be 20 minutes, just a bit more here and a bit more there. And before you know it, the evening's gone. And like you say, you've missed your wife and your kids, and you've got on with things that probably...
Well, on that, we've established a hard stop of 4 p.m. every day.
Right.
So we've got a hard stop, unless there is a real reason, like I'm on an event, for example, or there's a time zone issue, and then that's planned way in advance. And I'll also take that time back, maybe have a morning off or whatever it's going to be to make up for that.
That's
and
curious.
Weekends are completely off as well. There is no work happening at the weekends.
Yeah.
So again, that was really a big result of the amount of time I was spending at the agency all the time.
Yeah.
Do you, Lee? Do you mind me asking around the idea of the streaks? I think I'm a fan of the concept around streaks, but do you think it requires a certain kind of competitive personality? And I mean that in terms of competitive with yourself.
I don't think it requires a competitive personality. I think what it requires is honesty with yourself. And I'm a big believer in accountability, but the person you probably need to be accountable to first is yourself. I could set up an accountability partnership with you and Nathan right now, and I'd say that I'm gonna, I don't know, do a bit of social media every single day, and you guys will check in on me every couple of weeks or so. How have you done? And it's really easy for me to lie to you both, or to kind of twist it a little bit so it sounds like I did everything I said I was going to do. Or if I just confess to you both that I didn't actually quite do it, do everything, you two be like, oh, it's okay, Lee, don't worry, there's always next week. It's not really the same, but you can't lie to yourself, you can't kid yourself. So it's less about the competition and it's more about, I really want to achieve this, and I kind of can't lie to myself. I really didn't read yesterday, so I cannot say I did, I can't put that down as I read yesterday. I can't catch it up. It is done. I'm going to start over, and now I'm going to try and beat that streak. That's all you can do. And I think it is more about just forcing yourself or tricking your brain, I think Nathan said earlier, into being honest with yourself.
I've got a feeling that it would be easy to fall. Let's say we've decided after this talk that we're going to go for the streak idea. We're going to do it. There must be some sort of careful management of how big the task for the streak is. So, for example, I could go all in and say I'm going to write 1,000 words a day or whatever it might be, and just totally kill myself with a streak which I've got no way of achieving. And then, of course, the obvious slump on the other side, a feeling of great disappointment, letting myself down. Oh dear, I'm back to where I started from. I guess there's something about setting up something utterly manageable. Absolutely. Like you said. Yeah.
Well, so in the book that I wrote, but that will come out eventually, I do talk about testing the streak. So the first 7 days is your test, and you need to make sure it is manageable, because we'll all get excited, won't we? And think, yes, I'm going to do all of this wonderful stuff, and I'm going to write thousands of words per day. So for my book, I did 500 words a day, which is only a small blog. It's actually very, very achievable. Hence the phrase, small achievable actions lead to big change. It's the purpose of a streak, and what you described earlier, even if it's just a small text to each other on Snapchat or whatever it is to build up their streak, it's a real simple action, isn't it? And it builds up and builds up, and that's the same with streaks. So if you'd have said, yeah, I'm going to do 1,000 words a day, I'd challenge you and say, I think that's a little much, mate. Do you think, wouldn't you rather do 500 words and double the amount of time it's going to take you? Or even do 250 words a day, and sure, it'll take you 6 months, but that's better than never reaching 1,000 over 6 months because you keep putting it off, or you keep trying and failing and giving up. That's what the kind of power has been for myself.
Yeah, my incredibly poor understanding of psychology tells me, I'm digging this up from the back of my brain somewhere, I don't know, that if you do something repeatedly for a period of time, and I think 2 weeks is the number, that it becomes almost habitual. So if you write every day and you manage to get to a 14-day point, then you are almost at the point where you are going to do it whether you like it or not,
Well, that's true, and I read now every single day. I've been reading for 940-something days now in a row. Never, ever miss it. I listen to music and meditate 700-and-something days in a row. Just don't miss it, because it is now a habit. Yeah. I do it at the same time every morning, just like cleaning my teeth, and obviously still track it and pat myself on the back whenever I hit a milestone. I'm like, nice one.
The toothbrush is a fantastic way of explaining that, because which one of us ever thinks twice about brushing? I mean, you may think I can't be bothered, but there's no bit of you which doesn't wake up and think I must clean my teeth. It's just totally part of the programming that happened to you.
It's usually the gross breath.
That's right. Yeah, there's other people telling you that you need to brush your teeth. Yeah, but that's true. It's just something which you've learned, and it's become a habit, and because it's habitual, you kind of do it and really don't even think too much about it. It's just part of the day, right? That's interesting. So we've got some other comments that came in. Kaylin White, I hope I've said your name correctly. She said, so this is, again, going quite back early on in the conversation. I also think that going away for a small bit and coming back works well, especially for productivity. The idea of a change is as good as a break.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea.
Do you ever get to a period where you feel that potentially a streak, the idea of the streaks, can become unhealthy?
Yes.
The heavy focus on them and the need to achieve them becomes almost an addiction in its own right.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. And the fact that I have used it for my own addictive personality, i.e. I have certain personal addictions I wanted to conquer, it certainly can become addictive and can become overbearing. It's something I think the purpose of introducing celebration into that allows you to look at something and say, hey, I've succeeded, and setting kind of an end milestone for something. I'm not going to keep writing my book forever, because that would be dumb. The book would be too long. It needs to have an end date. So it had, like, I was going to hit 30 or 60 days. That's my end point. For achieving just a day-to-day activity or something that's just a regular activity, like a small project, I don't really need to use streaks. This is just something where I know it's big, but if I can just do something small towards it every day for 6 months, for a year, or just a few weeks, whatever that's going to be, that'll work for that one thing. And I'll often try, and I encourage people to not use streaks unless you really need that kind of, not crutch or whatever you want to call it, that tool to get whatever that thing is done. I used streaks, in fact, for Agency Transformation Live last year. I was doing a little bit on the event every single day, planning and all that sort of stuff to make sure I got everything done, because it was so overwhelming otherwise. So, but yes, there is a danger that it can get addictive, and you would absolutely need to check in on yourself. In fact, that's one thing that I've practiced doing. Is I've got a friend, Ian, and we're accountable to each other on streaks. So that actually helps, because we're accountable to ourselves doing the streaks, but equally we know both of our streak numbers and what we're trying to achieve, and we will often challenge each other as well on what we're doing. It's like, do you really need a streak for that, mate? I mean, you're cleaning your teeth, man. Come on. He's never had that, but you know what I mean. It's just an example of, so totally be careful.
Yeah. Picking up on the idea of treats, I think that's a really nice idea. For me, the treat might be, I love walking. When I get the chance to walk, I really enjoy it. And so just putting tools down and giving myself 20 minutes going around the sort of fields near where I live. And Nicole Osborne seems to be feeling the same way, because she said she likes to treat herself with a scooter ride. I believe Nicole's in London, so having a little scooter ride, fabulous. What a nice way to celebrate the things yourself. She also carries on to say that she likes your idea of small, achievable actions that lead to big change. Yeah, that's nice. Your mantra.
Do you, Lee, are there other aspects within your business where you apply the concept of gamification? Because of course you're looking at the streak concept as a way to gamify.
Yes, gamify. Yeah, I absolutely. It's not for. I don't do it with my team, because they all have their own ways of coping and organizing themselves, and we have a central task management system. If they want some help and some advice on streaks, then sure, I'd give them it. But I will continue to use it for me inside of the business, especially on those more longer term projects. So for example, in Event Engine, we're developing a product for the industry. And it's about a year-long development cycle. It's in Python. There's lots of things I need to do. When I think about it, it overwhelms me a little bit. And what I've been doing is I split it into these phases. The first phase was just research, and it was 30 minutes of research a day, 5 days a week in business hours, etc., where I could build up my knowledge base. I then jumped into 30 more days of practice, where I was doing test development and test projects. And then I did a proof of concept for another 30 days, several proof of concepts on things that we knew we wanted for this product, and then we've just carried on doing that. So I've also got team members involved in some of those 30-day cycles to help me as well. But it's just such a big project. It doesn't have to be streaks necessarily. It is just, isn't it, breaking a big thing down into lots of small achievable actions, whether you call it streaks or whether you just call it being organized. I don't know.
That's right.
I'm really dreadful at not... Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, do you ever find there are times when streaks are not appropriate at all?
When streaks are not appropriate, you shouldn't need them to tell your family how much you love them. That should just be a natural. I don't know. I've not found them not appropriate. I think what I would say is don't do streaks for things that you just already do all the time, because that means they lose their power. So for me, I need the streak to keep me accountable to read books that are going to help me. So at the moment, I'm using that. But when reading becomes a joy, and I don't know when that will be because it still isn't a joy, when it becomes a joy, I can drop the streak. I don't need it for that. That will rob it of its power. It's just like I said, I don't need a streak to clean my teeth every single day. I've probably got an unbeaten streak on that for thousands of days, but I'm not going to track it because that's pointless. So yeah, I would certainly say there are things you just don't need to.
It was interesting you mentioned about setting up little tasks for yourself, so a half an hour task. One of the things that I find most difficult is disengaging from a thing. So if I'm 30 minutes in and I realize that given another 24 minutes or something, I could probably finish it off. I'm really appallingly bad at being able to disengage, and the thing that comes out of my mouth so often is I'll just be a few more minutes, or I'll be 10 more minutes, which is complete rubbish. It could be 4 hours or 6 minutes, I've no idea. But I think personally I would struggle to block the things out into little half an hour chunks, because I would fear that when the half hour point arrived, I wouldn't be able to put it away till tomorrow.
Simple process I use for that, I'm exactly like you, is I write myself a handover for the next day. So I get to the end of whatever it is that I'm doing. Say I've set a half-hour block, and I'll then write a very quick, this is what I did, this is what I want to do tomorrow. And whatever ideas or whatever I've thought, if it's writing and I'm like, I really want to be able to carry on for another half an hour because I've got so much more I could write, I'd actually just write out the bullet points just as I'm coming down to the end of that 30 minutes, so I know what I need to write tomorrow. And the first draft of my book that I've written is so much better for doing that, for throwing the bullet points into tomorrow and then dropping it and forgetting about it and not exhausting myself with it, and then coming back the next day with even more ideas and those bullet points from yesterday that were just bang on. Yeah, I definitely, it does force you, I think, to be more compartmentalize things a lot better, because I would highly recommend that. You're totally right. 30 minutes becomes 4 hours, becomes burnout.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting idea, and I confess I've never heard that before. But I'm going to
full of good ideas, mate.
Yeah, no, that is a
you
really
just think
nice
of it as a handover. You're on holiday now, and then you're handing over to you tomorrow.
Yes,
I'm very visual. It's the only way I can do things, and it literally I'm handing over. I'm signing off for today, and I'm handing over for you tomorrow, Lee. There's your bullet points.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a really nice idea. I'm going to miss a couple of the comments out, Aaron, if that's all right. I'm going to go straight to Rick's one, because Lee was mentioning some tools that he's used. Again, this is something unfamiliar to me. I didn't even realize that there were apps for this. Of course, there's an app for it. It's an app for everything.
An app for everything.
You're mentioning, was it Dailyo? Is that the one? Yeah, Dailyo, and it helped Rick lose his habit to snooze for half an hour in an hour each morning. That's quite interesting. So how does the app actually work? You just set yourself a goal and it puts up a notification and interrupts you a little bit?
It reminds you every day, yeah. So you set yourself up a goal. It's also a mood tracker as well. In fact, that's how it started for me, because of my mental health a few years ago. I wanted a mood tracker, so I would say how I was feeling and what I happened to be doing at those times. And I could see that spending time with my family, for example, would show a boost in my mood, and I'd be a lot happier. So I was thinking, right, well, I'll do more of that. So if you download Dailyo just for that and not even streaks, I would highly recommend it. There's a free version and a paid version. It's not that expensive. However, yes, you can then also set goals on Dailyo, and it will send you a reminder based on a schedule. So if you want 5 days a week or every single day of the week, and it'll pop you a notification at the time you want to do that particular thing, and then you'll just log it, say what your mood was at that time as well. So meditation, was I stressed, happy, blah blah blah, and I've got like 1,000 days worth of stats in here now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it gets more and more full of things that prove to yourself that it's working, if you like. Yeah, and
again, you can, like I said, you can see what's making you happy. That is so useful, because one of the things I was tracking was admin. I hate admin, and I could, and the Dailyo app said I hated admin too, so I've cut that out.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I'm just I need to be happier, so I'm gonna give the admin to other people.
Useful judgments as well. That's really interesting. We'll go now to Nicole's question. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, sorry, Lee. Have you got any advice on breaking streaks and how you deal with that? Because that can be an issue.
You're going to feel like, I better not swear. You're going to feel very upset, and that's fine. when you break a streak, remember you're allowed to forgive yourself, you're allowed to make mistakes, and the cool thing is you can now gamify the break. You can say, oh no, I missed a day and I got to 35 days. Now I'm going to try and beat 35 days of whatever it is. So that's more useful when you're trying to abstain from something, like give up a habit. Maybe you're giving up smoking, etc., and you get to 50 days and then you have one social cigarette when you're out with people, and then you feel really bummed out about it. But just make it a competition to beat your last 60 days and add some more. And that actually makes it, on the second round, you're less likely to break it because you know how much work you just put in to build it all back up again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Nicole's got a question for us. She asks, first of all, compliments about your talk. Great talk, Lee. How do you pick things up again when you found yourself procrastinating? Yeah. So I guess peaks and troughs. How do you pick yourself up after a trough?
Super easy. It's that 4 p.m. end of day. I know I have to be present. I've got in fact, it's been 15 minutes for me. I'll be logging off. I have a little baby to go play with. I've got dinner to make. I've got a whole evening planned out. So with that in mind, it makes it very easy to procrastinate to a schedule. So I will spend some time on Facebook for a bit, but knowing that once I've spent that time, I can put it aside. I've still then got 30 minutes left of the day to finish whatever else it is I need to finish. So setting an end of day, I think, is essential. It's something we started doing when we were a real struggling agency, and we were working really long hours and still getting into worse and worse debt. And we then decided one day, kind of on the flip of a coin, sod this, let's all finish at 5. We might go bust anyway, so let's at least go bust and get sleep. And actually, it was the best idea we ever had, because then we came to work every day. We got more done because we were finishing at 5, and we turned things around. So set an end of time and make it non-negotiable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do like what you said there about planning the evening. I think that's quite a useful thing. If the evening is just not work, then it's not quite so much as if the evening's got 4 different things happening in it, including the preparation of a meal or whatever. You tell yourself that these are the things that I need to get done. Yeah, that's great. How are we doing for time, Dan?
We are getting close to having to wrap up, but I see we've got a huge amount of comments there. But apologies, we're not going to get through all of them, I'm afraid. I just wanted to very quickly touch on the concept of those individuals that struggle with the need for a deadline, and that point of procrastinating to almost create that deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that you've ever had to deal with, or do you have any experience with that you could share with?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was partly my problem. Was in the talk I said I let an awful lot of people down. That's what I was doing. I was procrastinating to the extent where the website project would begin 3 days before the due date, and I would slap something together as quickly as I possibly could, then realizing I've missed all sorts and I've had to let clients down, etc. So that for me was where I had to either use streaks or make sure I planned a project out, and I handed off the things that I just absolutely hate to other people. I run a podcast, but I find the audio editing terrible, like terribly boring and annoying. Oh, I'm sure you do, but I don't, because I have to listen to my own voice for ages and then take out all my ums and ahs and mess around with it, and I don't know all the settings. So I've ended up handing that off. But what I used to do was leave it till the last minute and then hack an audio edit together just to get the podcast live. And there's quite a lot of episodes as I look back which aren't the best quality, so nowadays I have someone else who does it for me. That's another thing that I've ended up doing when I've built up the procrastination on things I just don't like. Cut out the things you don't like.
Yeah,
I'm just going to send my audio to you from now on, Nathan.
That's right. Yeah? No, I didn't say I was any good at it. I just said I enjoed it.
I saw a screenshot of one of yours. You're a nutter.
Yeah,
there was like every single second was.
Can get a little bit. Too
OCD.
much. So Dan, I'm looking for you for guidance. I think we are.
We are. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up. But Lee, thanks you,
guys.
Been an awesome session. Awesome as always to have you. Full of energy, full of great actionable advice.
Buy the merch.
Yes.
Buy the merch. Oh, quickly, Lee, because there are lots of people who've said things and we haven't been able to put them on the screen and what have you.
Yep.
What's the best way to find you?
agencytrailblazer.com.
Perfect. Good stuff.
Excellent.
Nice.
Lee, Thank you very much. We shall catch you soon.
Cheerio.
Take care. Excellent. As we say, just loads of great advice in this in yet another session, but we do need to wrap up. So I just want to say a thank you to our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic. Our multilingual partner, Weglot, our continental sponsors, 20i and Post Status, and our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Membership Pro. Plus, be sure to visit our tents and visit the community tent to make sure you've got an opportunity to win some prizes.
Fantastic. And also don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth. I saw a comment a minute ago. Lee's done that already. And that has been brought to us courtesy of Content Journey and Stratic. And also be sure to check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from the sponsors. Also, thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors. You all make our big orange hearts full.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hello. Welcome back. So much has happened today. So much more still to come. Thank you for being with us today. There's probably going to be quite a few comments, I suspect, in this one. If you want to make use of the comments, please do so. That is going to be the best place to deposit any questions that you might have. And don't wait for them. If something occurs to you, just stick a comment in there and we'll be able to take it and hopefully share it with our presenters and guests today. So today, this is a good moment. We're going to be welcoming Mike Little, who is going to be interviewed by Dan Maybe and Michelle Frechette. I'm just going to go a little bit off-piste here for a moment. When I was a child, if somebody had said to me, what would be one of the greatest things you could say? I would have said, my name's Nathan Wrigley and I was in the Beatles. And then I got older. And if somebody said that to me now, I would probably say, my name's Nathan Wrigley, and I was the co-founder of WordPress. And we have that today. We're going to be joined by Mike Little, who is the co-founding developer of the WordPress project. He started it in 2003 with Matt Mullenweg and has developed with and used WordPress ever since. Mike developed and continues to enhance the award-winning I'm a Scientist, Get Me Out of Here site for his client Gallimana. And he has worked on a number of UK government WordPress sites. Most notably, he enhanced and supported the number 10 Downing Street site for the Cabinet Office from 2008 to 2010. And he developed a Law Commission consultation site and a custom WordPress site for DWP. Mike Little's background is in software development, and he has more than 30 years under his belt, many at the most senior of levels. He's a published author and technical editor, and it's a pleasure to welcome him today.
Hi there.
Welcome.
So what I just heard is John Lennon said the Beatles were bigger than God, and Nathan Wrigley said Mike Little is bigger than the Beatles. So how does that make you feel, Mike?
I'll take that. I will take that.
No,
I think you're blushing.
Yeah, I wouldn't put myself quite there.
It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Mike, it's great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us here in a conversation with Mike Little at WordFest Live. Excited to see where this conversation goes and to dive in. So really appreciate your time today, and yeah, looking forward to see where we end up.
Yep.
Absolutely. One of the things we wanted to learn a little bit is about your journey with, digital products and into WordPress. So, I mean, I think everybody knows who you are, but if you could just kind of elaborate a little bit for us, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, so I can give you the kind of condensed version of my journey into tech and software in particular. Started a very, very long time ago. I actually wrote my first computer program in 1978. On a computer that didn't even have a screen, and what you typed on the keyboard came out as printed paper at the back of the device. That was a very long time ago when I was still at school. And I graduated to home computers, as many of my era did in the 80s. And then eventually got into PCs mid to late 80s. I think my first PC was a green screen XT with a 20 megabyte hard disk. 20 megabyte hard disk, which is unbelievable these days. And then I graduated to various other, as I say, home computers. Then eventually in 1990 became a professional software developer. Got my start in industrial software, programming in C, and kind of moved on then. I mean, if you think about it, 1990 was pre-web, so HTML hadn't been invented yet, but the internet was around. I was doing stuff online, albeit not as conveniently as it is today. Dial-up modems and all that stuff. And then, yeah, eventually got into the web through a number of different jobs and companies that I worked for. And then got into this blogging thing in the early 2000s. Tried a few different things, decided on the one called B2. And a year or so into using that, the guy behind that, Michel Valdrigi, disappeared off the web for a short time. And this chap I'd met on the forums called Matt Mullenweg posted a blog which he entitled "The Blogging Software Dilemma," and yeah, basically described a similar route to me, gone through different blogging software. This one was the one he'd settled on, B2, and now the guy disappeared, but it was open source, it was GPL, and that meant that he could fix the problems if he wanted to, and if he got run over by a bus, somebody else could take over. And I commented, if you're serious about forking B2, Matt, count me in. And from that comment started the project that eventually became WordPress. And yeah, that was 2003, January 2003, 18 years ago, which again is astonishing. And we got our first release out in May that year. Just before that, Michel Valdrigi came back online. He'd had various real-world issues that had kept him away from the software, but he declared us the official successor to B2. And by that time, we already had the name WordPress. Interestingly, there was more than one fork of B2 at that time. One of them became WordPress New a short while later. And one of them, B2++, I think is still going. It's still pretty much a solo project. But yeah, WordPress was the one that caught people's attention, that got the groundswell of help and people contributing, and became the colossus that it is today.
So I remember pin-fed printers and the sound as it went across, and you just brought all of that back to mind through your tech journey. I think a lot of us have had similar journeys. Perhaps not our children who were born with, cell phones in their hands, but yeah, but what an interesting journey you've had to where we are today. And I for one want to thank you for everything that you've done to bring things forward, because so many of us have careers and hobbies and communities and friends and family now because of the journey through WordPress. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
So I know, Mike, what I'd love to touch on, if you don't mind, I know you're passionate about education and the work you're doing there. I know we worked, you were part of the WordCamp London. We did a fantastic session back in WordCamp London, which was a lot of fun, seeing that group of school children, thriving off that education, and really, it was clear your passion was coming through in that moment. And I just wanted to touch on the importance of education across. We've had various conversations across WordFest around underrepresented groups, and how can we ensure that education is enabled across underrepresented groups. And I'm comfortable discussing that, so I'd love to dive into that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you point out, education is one of my passions, and in particularly getting kids into tech. And one interesting anecdote from that WordCamp session, because they were primary school kids, and I realized as I introduced myself and WordPress to them that none of them were born when WordPress started. That was quite mind-blowing at that point. But yeah, getting kids into coding is something that I've always been passionate about. And in particular, yeah, like you say, underrepresented groups, whether that's underrepresented, from kind of race, gender, lots of different groups need to be at least given the opportunity. And that's the key thing for me. I mean, I was, funnily enough, I was talking about this morning. I remember in the 80s in the UK, when there was a campaign to put a BBC B computer in every classroom in the UK. And I think it was one in every classroom rather than one in every school, but these days it would seem ridiculously under-resourced. But what I understand led on from that was that the UK became a powerhouse of all things, game computing. Some of the biggest names in gaming software, many of them started, or their founders started in the UK. And I think we lost that in the UK when skills became all about sorting out which, or teaching kids how to use Microsoft products. Getting kids introduced to coding so that they get the opportunity to see that they don't have to be just passive consumers of software, passive consumers of content, of the web, I think is really important. There's part of that is being tackled these days with all the various ways that kids can put content on the web, with whether it's YouTube or Instagram and all those things. That's great, but actually they're still passive. And of course, in those situations, those highly commercial situations, they are the products that those big companies are selling to their advertisers. With something like WordPress or many of the other modern web-based technologies, you stay in control. You control your content, you control access to your content. You aren't being dictated to by an algorithm that's all about making money for the big companies. And so any way that we can introduce younger people and underrepresented groups to that ability, to understand they've got that ability, to at least give it a try. I don't think everybody has to be the world's next best programmer, but just give them access to that. I think it's huge. One of the things that I used to do, I've not done it pandemic as well, but I've not done it for a while, is teaching in a classroom and teaching people how to use WordPress in the classroom. And one of the things that struck me, I think it was to do with WordPress itself, was that even though it was a kind of technical class that I was giving, many of the attendees were from underrepresented groups, almost always a minimum of 50% female, and lots of other representations as well. And what I loved about the teaching that I was doing then, that it wasn't actually technical. It was all about just how far you can go with WordPress without having to be technical, what you can do with it, whether that's promoting your poetry, your photography, starting a business, selling your services, whatever it might be, empowering people to get online, to get access to their potential future customers, employers, whatever it might be. That was something I found that I still find very, very worthwhile. And yeah, we absolutely need more of it. And talking about underrepresentation, one of the key things I think is seeing people who look like yourself, that real representation. I had a message on LinkedIn from somebody who'd been using WordPress for 5 or 6 years, who wasn't aware of who I was, and he was delighted to find somebody who looked a little bit like him, of the same color, as being part of that story. And that's key. That's absolutely key, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially as a woman who is a little bit older in WordPress and in technology, I try really hard to be representative, to help other women know that it's a safe space for us to be. And it's really good to see faces that look like you. When you go to a conference and it's all white men, then you feel like I probably don't belong here. And so it's really good. And that's one of the things that we try to do with WordFest too, is make sure that we have a really great representation of people from all different backgrounds, all different locations, all different communities, so that we are truly being representative of our community here too. So I really appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I did notice, looking through the schedule, looking through the faces of the people who are, on this 24 hours, what was really good for me, and I think hopefully eye-opening for a lot of people, was that sometimes it's not that hard to find those more diverse representations if you look outside, not just, the narrow idea of those 30-something white men in tech, but actually just outside the Western world. Right. And so you've got speakers from Africa. You go to Africa, to the WordPress community in Africa, and it's all black, of course. India's got a huge WordPress community. All those other places.
I gave a talk to the meetup group in Lahore, and they invited me. I have a project called underrepresentedintech.com, and they invited me to come talk, and they looked at me like I was crazy because they didn't feel underrepresented. I said, but you have to think outside of where you are. Think of the global community. And one of the things, and I agree with you 100%, diversity in events is not accidental. It has to be intentional, and you have to go out and you have to ask people to apply, and you have to ask people. And that's not just conferences, it's podcasts, it's blogs, it's companies, it's projects. And so, yeah, it doesn't happen by accident for sure.
I think that's where there's a positive, if we were to look for positives in the past 18 months, which have been incredibly difficult for many people, it's that to some respects we've reduced barriers. We've reduced barriers to enable individuals to partake and to participate in events and sessions that they may never have had the opportunity previously due to many reasons, when we're talking visa issues, whether we're talking travel costs. So I just think it's if we can take anything positive from this awful time, then maybe that is something for us to be looking at.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the pandemic has certainly opened a lot of people's eyes to that whole idea of being able to work, communicate, virtually gather remotely, which I think for many people wasn't something that they considered or thought of, or thought had value. And whether they thought that or not, they've had to do it. And hopefully many have realized, actually, we don't necessarily need those barriers. And, although it's easy to think about in terms of underrepresentation, there's just so many groups that are underrepresented. But one in particular, I think, that doesn't get talked about too much, and is perhaps... No, I won't say that. But one that doesn't get talked about too much is those who might fit into what would normally be seen as the more standard kind of diverse or non-diverse groups, but who don't have the privilege of being able to get involved in technology. So those who work multiple jobs just to keep ends going, those like single mothers who've got who have ended up having to do childcare as well as earn a living wage, don't have the luxury of being able to get involved in tech. Many don't have, and we saw this in the UK in the pandemic. Great, all the kids can work from home, except not all of them have got access to decent broadband or decent equipment that will allow them to do that. And normally you might think of them as being part of the majority, but actually they're still a minority. So anything that we can do to increase the diversity, anything that we can do to just make things better for more people, it's got to be a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been an interesting thread, I think, through many of the sessions across WordFest so far. I think it comes back to similar conversations around mental health and trying to normalize conversations. That we need to. I feel we're in a very privileged opportunity here. We have a privileged opportunity within WordFest to be able to reach an audience, to be able to have these conversations. So I just thank you for being part of that and helping us to discuss these issues in public. I'd just be interested touching on the kind of the open source side of your life. And had open source always been a passion for you? Was this?
I mean, it absolutely has, even before open source was a term, because I remember when that term was invented. And funnily, I have related it before now, but when I first started programming for the home computers, I mean, we're talking early 80s now, 82. Your exposure to coding would have been printed listings in magazines for whichever, whether you were Amstrad or Atari or the Sinclair or whatever. You would buy the magazine once a month, and you would get listings that you would have to meticulously type in. They were people sharing their code to make things happen with you. And as I did, one of the first projects I did as the one that got me hooked on development was trying to combine two different programs for the Sinclair Spectrum to make them work together. And I actually loved that thing. And then when I discovered the online world, I got onto bulletin boards again, pre-web, and found out about this idea of GPL software that you could just FTP pieces of software down and learn how they worked and things like that. And then following it on through the foundings of the GPL, the GNU public license, the open source movement, all of it, those 4 fundamental freedoms for the GPL in particular, absolutely passionate about, because by giving people those freedoms, by giving users of the software those freedoms to use the software for whatever purpose they want, to be able to modify it and make it better and fix the problems or just enhance it in some way, and key, being able to distribute those changes, that makes the world a better place. That makes the community a better place by being able to do that. And that's what I love about the GPL, because it stops anybody stopping that freedom. You can't, some of the other open source licenses allow you to restrict freedoms. Once you've benefited from that freedom, you can turn it into a commercial product and restrict other people's freedoms. Those I don't like. The GPL prevents that, and that's wonderful. And yeah, I think it's very powerful being able to do that, being able to pass on the benefit that you got from being able to use that software, whether it was paid for or not, and pass on the enhancements that you might have done, or that you might ask somebody else to do, or you might be fortunate enough to pay somebody else to enhance the software and then share that with the rest of the world. That's incredibly powerful. And I think the general success of WordPress, not just community wise, but financially wise, those enormous numbers that came out of that report earlier this year, a testament to the fact that actually it's still possible to do all that commercial stuff and yet benefit the world at large by sharing this software, by everybody contributing, everybody being open to contribute. And I still, passionate about that. I still think that's incredibly powerful thing.
And that's wonderful. You can see the passion coming through. And I think this is stemming from obviously the B2 being a GPL licensed product in the first place. Yeah. So you did the license. So 18 years later, here we are with WordPress, but it's thanks to the piece of software that it was originally forked from. I don't know how old B2 was at that point.
I think it's about 2 years. I think something like that. Yeah.
Last year, I published my first and probably only plugin, and it's literally just I learned how to redo Hello Dolly for myself. And one of my proudest moments in WordPress is somebody forked my GitHub on my version of Hello Dolly to put it in another language. And I was just like, okay, I've done so many different things in my life, and I'm sitting here sobbing at my computer because somebody forked my silly little plugin that's called Hello Beautiful. It makes you feel good when you log into your website to make that accessible to other people. And so, yes, absolutely, 100% what you're saying.
Fabulous.
It is a beautiful thing. Absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about working remotely too, right? So we have all these repositories, like we have GitHub, and we have all of these things where we can share with one another. And it doesn't matter that I'm sitting here in Rochester, New York. Somebody in India forked my GitHub to create something for somebody who's literally halfway around the world from me. What do you think is the way that, GitHub's great, right? You have to know GitHub, but what are some other ways in a remote world like we are that you find work for staying connected with other people?
Obviously GitHub is one, but that only speaks to a small part of certainly of the WordPress community. So the forums or meeting places that are a lot of them are on Slack at the moment, but there are others. There's a lot of different kinds of software that allow that similar sort of capability, and actually it's great to see the open source ones doing so well, StreamYard and various other ones. But yeah, it's somehow finding a community is the key way to do that, whether you find it through a link on a GitHub repo, or whether you find it through the show notes from somebody's podcast or whatever it takes to give you access to that community. If you can step in and try it and see if it's for you, that's going to be an incredible thing. And I think that really helps people connect. And again, I think we are relatively fortunate in the kind of WordPress community in that we are somewhat more open. The WordPress community is not perfect. It's far from perfect, but it's more open to a more diverse range. It's more open to a wider range of technical skills and non-technical skills than some tech groups are. And I think that shows in the size of the community around WordPress. I think that shows in the number of things that people are doing to communicate, to contribute to it in the various different ways. And absolutely part of that is being made to feel welcome, being helped, not being rebuffed for being a beginner, and all those things. When I ran my in-person WordPress meetup group, which I did for a very long time, more than 10 years, what I remember right at the beginning when I first started over was that it was absolutely typical tech meetup group in that it was 6 blokes sat around a table with their laptops out. And I worked a very long time to make that something other than that. And in particular, obviously, welcome to diverse groups. We had a wonderful mix of genders, all genders, colors, races, whatever. But also, key was beginners. We did things for beginners, for people who are absolutely brand new to WordPress, and that made for a much better, diverse community. It made for what I find really interesting, especially if you bring beginners into the mix or people who are non-technical into the mix, is with any luck, it makes the technical people better because it makes them understand that the stuff that they think is obvious about a piece of software that they built isn't obvious to non-techie people. And that's a powerful lesson. And it's so much more powerful when it's the person in the chair next to you asking the question that you thought was an obvious answer, and everybody knows that. That's powerful, and that's part of what those communities can do. But key is being welcoming, being understanding that people have to start somewhere. Important stuff.
Absolutely.
That's a fantastic answer. I think there's it's a really nice segue actually, because we are getting a number of questions coming in from our community. Okay. And if you're happy, we would jump into some of those questions and
absolutely,
just run through them, because as you said, we just don't know where the conversations go. And obviously Nathan, are you happy to grab some of these questions, or have we got any there particularly that we wanted to dive into straight off the bat?
Let's just have a little look.
Lots of love for you, Mike. Lots of very positive comments coming
through. There's an awful lot of there's a lot of lovely commentary coming in of a sort of reminiscing kind of nature. Paul Lacey, for example, is also casting his mind back like you did, Mike, at the very beginning, saying he remembers. Well, there's several comments that he's made. This is one of them. He enjoyed experimenting, and ModX was one. Never got used to it. Thinks it's still going. He was also a user of something called open source CMS, I believe. Text Pattern was one that he's mentioned in a previous comment as well.
Yeah, remember that one.
An awful lot of commentary around that kind of thing.
He also says he's feeling very nostalgic now because of everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, you can absolutely go into the classic four Yorkshiremen sketch about how I used to have to program in just 4K of RAM.
Yes.
There's only 3 keys on my keyboard.
You mentioned the Sinclair thing and reading the magazines, and I remember exactly that. The magazine would plop down on the doorstep, and I would usually make one, I don't know, a bracket I'd miss or something. It was incredibly frustrating when nothing worked. Adam Warner also makes the same point that
I was just going to say, we've got a really nice comment from Adam Warner, actually. Adam Warner, so middle-aged white man here. I'm challenging myself to attend and participate in conferences and communities where I am the minority. I think again, the pandemic, it's opened itself. We've opened ourselves up to enable that, the freedom of movement in terms of the digital space.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had the opportunity, Mike, to jump into communities and events that you may not necessarily have done.
A few, not that many actually, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's absolutely been the case that I've normally been in the minority.
Me too.
And I have,
Me too.
I had a wonderful experience. April 2019, where I attended the what was it called? UK Black Tech Fest, I think it was called. And actually, the first time that I'd been in a literal sea of brown and black faces for the first time in my life. And that was quite enlightening because I've been to tech conferences for most of my career. And yeah, that was quite enlightening. But yeah, props to Adam. That's a wonderful thing to be doing. To maybe handle that discomfort, handle those maybe different accents that make you have to struggle to listen to what's being said and understand that actually in other situations that's what the audience is having to do when people go into different countries and only speak English to present to them. There's brilliant for him for doing that. It's any way that we can do it to stretch ourselves to see how it is for other people. It's not necessarily about walking in their shoes or living their lives. Just see how different it is for other people. And one way absolutely to do that is to get into a situation where perhaps you are the minority.
Yeah, I always say it's you can develop a better product, you can develop a better service, you can develop a better company that you have, whether it's for profit or not profit, if you include people in the decision making who are from different backgrounds, because you have a better opportunity to include people in your customer base and in your fan base and in your community if people can look at the decision makers and see themselves there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, bringing it back to WordPress, Matt tells the story of the fan or fans in Japan who had painstakingly translated WordPress into Japanese, and how rather than just put that to one side, oh yeah, very nice, well done, actually think, well, how can we make this easier for WordPress? And the work that then went into bringing get text into WordPress and making it so that now we have that ability. We have a tool that is over 200 languages that people can use. And again, giving back, making it better for the wider community and opening up for all those different people who might not normally be able to use a piece of technical software as much not because they're non-technical, but because it's not in their language.
It's a nice comment. It's I believe the second comment from Wolf Bishop, and he says, Mike, you mentioned the fact that WordPress is a fork, and then he goes on to say there's also Classic Press is also a fork of WordPress, and obviously built on top of B2, WordPress became something, and then just a few years ago there's sort of bifurcation in the road of WordPress where some people wish to go in one direction and created the Classic Press force. So what's your thoughts on that?
Great. That's it's really good. To be honest, I'm surprised there haven't been more forks of WordPress. There's certainly been controversial directions that WordPress has gone in, and I think Classic Press was a response, a reaction to the early days of the Gutenberg project, long before it actually made it into WordPress. And in hindsight, not an unexpected outcome. It wasn't the best handled way of bringing new technology into WordPress, I have to say. I think on the whole now it's for the better, but that's also meant that those who are technical, those who have been contributed to WordPress or building on top of WordPress, have either had to find the time to learn those new technologies that we've got now with Gutenberg and all the rest of it, and not everybody's been able to do that, either because they're barely making a living, or the WordPress work is their second income to top it up and perhaps make their lives more livable, and so sticking with what they know is a perfectly valid thing to do, and Classic Press is one of those things that makes that easier. I haven't really been following the project, but I do hope, because they can, that they have been following along with WordPress as it's moved, because it's not all about Gutenberg, it's not all about JavaScript. There have been other improvements in WordPress itself, and I hope that they are pulling those back in and contributing anything that they find as well to help WordPress move along. As I say, not followed it closely, but it's a great idea for those who want that. I'm surprised there hasn't been one as big and as vocal before.
You'll have to read through the chat for this later, because you're being invited to a lot of different organizations right now.
I'll have a read through that. I'll grab it before it gets lost.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to meetup organizers, wherever they are in the world, who are struggling with fresh content? So we talk about education. That is one thing. I organize the meetup here in Rochester, New York, and we have a meetup once a month. And sometimes it's hard to think of, well, what can we teach, or what can we learn, or who can we share about next month? So what advice would you give? If you ran a meetup for over 10 years, you must have some tricks up your sleeve.
So one of the things that I struggled with my meetup was, perhaps because of who I am, I found it hard to get people to contribute. And for most of those 10 years, I did everything. I did the talks and all the rest of it. Yes, we had lots of great guest speakers, but actually from month to month, it often fell to me to do things. So one of the ways is to encourage people to contribute in tiny ways. If you can get somebody to stand up in a room or shout out online, and just talk for 1.5 minutes about some success they've had with a new theme, or how they built a particular page, or ask for advice on how to do a thing. We used to run a WordPress clinic, as we called it, and we would get people to stand up, ask a question, and then we'd get somebody else in the audience to answer it. Not me at the front, not any of the other experts. And what was brilliant about the very first time we did that was the first guy who put his hand up and asked a question got help from somebody in the audience, and maybe 4 questions later, he could answer somebody else's question. And that was incredibly powerful, because even if you think you're a beginner, if you've got started, you are one step ahead of somebody who hasn't, and therefore you can help them. And getting that message across, getting it known that the people in the meetup, online or in person, have something to contribute, especially if you've already managed to get a diverse audience. Is everybody has different experiences. Everybody has even different ways of solving the same problem. So just encourage people to just do that little 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute speak up. If they found a great plugin, maybe they could share a screen and let everybody have a quick look at what they've done with it. 5 minutes, no slides, no prepared speech, just like you would if somebody was sat at the side of you and happened to have wandered into your office. That can be a really great way of, and you can do that for half an hour, 40 minutes if you can get people to speak up. And yeah, that's a great way of making it more lively, keeping it going. And some of those people will think, well, maybe I could do 10 minutes on this thing that I've spent the last 3 months mastering. And before you know it, they're speaking at WordCamps, and that's certainly happened in my experience.
That's wonderful. One of the other things I've discovered is if there's a lull in the conversation, all you have to do is ask one of 2 questions. So who do you think is the best form builder? Or who's the best host? And any one of those will go into at least an hour's long discussion between everybody in the room.
Yes.
No, I think that's actually really good advice, because everybody, I always say, if you have one hand up the ladder, you should have one hand down the ladder too, because we're all somewhere in between. Nobody's at the top, nobody's at the bottom. And so having people share with one another. And I think there should be a comfort at a comfort level for everybody at meetups, for sure, because there is nobody who should be running the show like the teacher, and nobody should be feeling like they're afraid to get called on. It should just be something open where people can participate.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly those clinic sessions we ran were really helpful with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And one thing that the pandemic has done is allowed us to have online meetups where people from all over the world are attending. So, you know, I run a meetup and suddenly people are popping in from all over the world, which is really fun. But also it's allowed me to ask people from all over the world to come in and present and share what they've learned. And that's been really good too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've had a comment come in from Wolf Bishop. I would personally feel proud if someone forked my products. If someone thinks my products are worthy of being forked, then it's a compliment. I just wanted to touch on how you feel that the journey that you've been on with obviously the product that you WordPress as a product and the impact that it's had.
I'm incredibly proud of the relatively small piece I had in building this thing that was WordPress. I was there at the start, but WordPress is as awesome as it is now because of the thousands of people who've come after me. I can't not say that. It's a huge community. I love the fact that every WordPress release has that credits page that lists 300, 400, 500 names, many of whom might be contributing for the first time. It's not just the same old crowd. It's not just that clique of those who are privileged enough to be able to have the time to contribute. It's an ever expanding pool of people who can contribute, and I absolutely love that. It warms my heart every day. It really, really does.
Wonderful. What a wonderful
I love
answer.
that.
And
Absolutely.
we've had a question from Yogesh. Yogesh, what influence would you like to see WordPress have on the web/open web?
The big one for me, the most important one for me, is accessibility. And before I dive into that, it's worth pointing out that WordPress already does influence the web, the wider web. There's a statistic somewhere about the uptick in HTTPS sites because WordPress started natively supporting HTTPS. The uptick in the enhancements to the image tag, the source set, so that mobile data isn't used as much, was directly attributable to that feature going into WordPress. So I love that, and because of that power, if you like, I'd love for WordPress to be even more explicitly pro accessibility in all the ways that needs to be done, both at a technical level in terms of the HTML that it writes out to the page, but also just the way we encourage people to create their content and design their pages and so on. Accessibility is another part of that diversity group, that diversity pool that we need to do. There's, so many people with various disabilities can get excluded from this tech, and they shouldn't be. There's no reason that they should be. And if WordPress can do anything, I'd love for it to make the online world more accessible.
Couldn't agree more.
Yes. Yeah, that is awesome. Mike, we are rapidly running out of our allotted time. I think that is a wonderful place to wrap up. Unfortunately, there has been many questions and comments and bits coming in from people that we just simply haven't been able to get to. But I just want to, I'm very conscious of your time. I just want to say a huge thank you for you coming on and joining us.
Very welcome.
Absolutely. So nice to meet you and know that you are bigger than the Beatles to some of us.
I feel I've started a meme.
Ideas.
What a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Okay, so that was our conversation with Mike Little at WordFest Live. Again, apologies if we didn't get to your questions, your comments. It's obviously an awful lot to cover in a very short space of time.
Yep,
so,
we're sort of wrapping up this side of things. We're coming to an end over here, but things are not coming to an end for the day as a whole. There'll be more about that from Dan in a minute. But just to say a big thank you to the sponsors who make events like this possible. So I would like to say thank you to the global sponsors who are Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, but also to the multilingual partner who is Weglot, and the continental sponsors 20i and Post Status, and also the sponsors of the live captioning, GiveWP, and Paid Memberships Pro. Please do go and visit their tents, go and chat with them, and you never know, you might win a prize.
I'm going to go a little bit off piste just before we do this. I just want to say we're going to go into a 15-minute break now. Please do take the time to jump into the community tent. We've been talking a lot about community across the day today. It's an opportunity for you to jump into the tables, connect with people, with our friends, with our colleagues, with people we've never met before. If you're not keen on getting into a table, there is a live chat on the right hand side. You do not necessarily have to turn your camera on, but we would love to see you in there. So please do head over to the community tent. I just want to say, don't forget to get your photos snapped at the photo booth, brought to you by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too. There's lots of deals and gifts from our sponsors. Also, thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors. You are all making our big orange hearts full.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, You get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? The red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web? It runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to WordFest. Hi, Sophia. How you doing over there?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well. Aren't you excited?
I'm very excited.
I am excited too. And we're excited that you all are here with us here for WordFest. We're kicking off the South American continent of our 24 hours of celebrating the people, the technology, and the big orange heart of WordPress. WordFest not only delivers a festival, educational content, wellness sessions, and networking opportunities, but it's also a fundraiser for Big Orange Heart. So please visit that donate link at any time to support the mission of this organization. What do we have up first, Sophia?
First up on the stage is Mariah Orija. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not 100% sure, and I do apologize for that. With Reclaiming Our Time, Creating a Work-Life Balance That Serves You. Mariah Orija is a digital content producer for GoWP. When not creating fun blogs or other content with her team, she invests time and energy in her other interests, the arts and promoting mental health awareness. She served as program coordinator for Mental Health America of Illinois and still performs on Chicago stage, and when she's really lucky, television and film.
Welcome to Reclaiming Our Time. I'm Mariah Orija, and I would like to thank Big Orange Hearts and each of our sponsors for making this event happen. I'm based in the US, and I'm the digital content producer for GoWP. GoWP is a WordPress company, also based in the US. And before joining the great team at GoWP, I was a nonprofit fundraiser and a program director. That's what I did for mostly the arts, but more recently in the mental health field. Now, while I did those jobs, I worked as an actor and a theater director, and I also taught in schools as a teaching artist. In all of those roles, I've met really happy people, self-actualized people, whatever that really means. But I've also met some scary and stressed people, unhappy people. And thankfully, I've met many influential people. And I say influential not because they were famous or wealthy, and some of them were. I say influential because they appeared to have figured something out about life. They achieved a workable life balance for themselves, and I liked it. I was attracted to it. Do you know anyone who fits that description? Or better yet, are you that type of person who fits that description? Full of peace, a sense of purpose, having a life surrounded by healthy relationships with coworkers, family, friends, etc. What a life, huh? We all can have it. Before we start, I want to ask you a question. Where were you this time last year? Take a moment to think about it. How did you feel? It was a much different world than it is now, or maybe not that much different. There's not a nation on this planet that wasn't greatly affected by the pandemic. Some more than others. Some nations handled the challenge more resourcefully than others. But no matter the circumstances, we were all experiencing the same challenges, the same uncertainty. This time last year, I was a program coordinator with Mental Health America of Illinois. I worked with a team of very trained and experienced mental health experts from across the entire state. We led monthly virtual, of course, community education sessions where individuals and families, professionals, students, anyone who was reaching out to make some sense of the changes that they and our society was experiencing. They needed answers, and they needed hope. Jobs were being lost, anxiety levels were rising, mental health resources were shrinking due to demand. One thing I noticed about every session we offered and every audience we served was that the pandemic made them realize they had no real plan for self-care. Self-care. Now, that is a buzzword of sorts. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. Self-care for you may be a warm bath. It may be a vacation. It might be a therapy session. Maybe self-care for you means spending time with loved ones or a beloved animal. Maybe, and this is me, self-care might mean having a talk with a financial advisor. Even though last year was full of uncertainty and trauma, I want us to shift our way of thinking about it because it was also a light that illuminated millions of tiny cracks in our society, in our world, and especially in our individual lives. After you listen to my presentation, I really hope that you walk away with a greater understanding of the importance of self-care and a greater work-life balance, not just for yourself, but for those closest to you. You might share an office, you may share a home, but one thing is for sure about last year, we saw a huge increase in anxiety, depression, psychosis, loneliness and isolation, and tragically, suicide. Over 2 million people visited the Mental Health of America screening site last year. And of that number, over 725,000 people stated that of that group, 1/3 of them had experienced thoughts of suicide or self-harm. I'm going to repeat that because I kind of jumbled it. 2 million people visited the Mental Health of America screening site last year. Over 725,000 took the depression screening. 1/3 of those people shared they'd experienced thoughts of suicide or self-harm. Now, for people who kept working, doing their thing, a staggering percentage of people admitted they were unhappy in their work environment. Now, maybe the pandemic played a huge role in that. Or maybe the pandemic just revealed a greater truth about life dissatisfaction experienced by too many people. I hope for the sake of families who were deeply affected by suicide or soaring anxiety, that we all collectively take a moment to reflect on what 2020 has to teach us. Now, if you're one of those few who made it through the year unscathed, here's to you. I mean, try to find a silver lining, I'll be honest. I like people, I get along with people, but I'm an introvert at heart, and I'm a germaphobe. So a world where huge crowds were forbidden and frequent hand washing became the norm, it wasn't that much of a dystopian nightmare for me, but in all seriousness, if last year didn't devastate you, chances are someone you work with, someone you know or love was affected. And they were affected in a way they might not even know how just to express. So for their sake, I hope you learn and share a skill today that will help you reclaim your time and focus on a healthy and happy work-life balance. Let's start with the conflict. Our problematic reality versus our healthy ideal. Let me share a few stats. The number of people looking for help with anxiety and depression has skyrocketed. No one's surprised by that. And I have to, full transparency, most all of the stats I'm going to share are for the United States. But I feel like we'll see some similarities across the globe. Burnout is a serious mental health concern for employees. In a recent Mental Health America report, it was stated, if 2019 was the year that officially defined burnout, then 2020 was the year of living it. According to a report, 83% of employees feel emotionally drained from their work, and 25% of employees feel reduced professional efficacy and cynicism towards their jobs and their coworkers. Of employees who strongly agreed that they feel emotionally drained by their work, 99% agreed that their workplace stress affects their mental health. We know that if it's ignored, burnout can lead to more serious mental health concerns like anxiety or depression. Now, if you're an employer, you can help. You can help mitigate the impact of burnout on your employees by educating and frequently communicating with your managers and employees about the signs of burnout. Some structural things like providing paid time off and managing workloads and position flexibility to your staff, as well as modeling healthy behaviors, can really help reduce those job stressors. I'm going to give a shout out to GoWP, where I work currently, because I think the company, we pride ourselves in investing in the happiness of not just our partners, but each and every one of our team members. We really walk the walk. And I, as an employee, I feel the benefit of that. Also, note for you supervisors, you can play a role, and your role is critical to your employees' mental health. 9 in 10 employees report that their workplace stress affects their mental health, but only 2 in 5 employees are receiving the support they need to help manage stress. So if you are a supervisor, consider some of these tips. Don't be afraid to provide emotional support. Check in with your remote team members. Ask, how are you feeling? How are you doing it today? Every once in a while, my manager, Emily, I'll be working and focused, and all of a sudden I'll get a message on Slack, and it's just her checking in. We work hundreds of miles apart, but we're still a team. And it matters, and I notice that she takes the time to just check in. Supervisors, be flexible and realistic about your expectations for direct reports. Stay connected with your coworkers, particularly in high stress and, like we said, remote working environments. For you too, you got to practice self-care because you deserve that emotional support too. And remember, you are modeling healthy life and work balances. The changing work environments. The changing work environments and routines are affecting employee engagement. I don't have to tell you, more people are working remotely. Most of us, that's the name of our game. We're used to remote work. But this is a new ballgame for a lot of folks. Work environments have drastically changed over the last year. Employees are losing childcare services, they're homeschooling their children, or they're sharing tight workspaces with spouses, partners, aged parents, and honestly, we really don't know what's on the horizon for the coming year. Mental Health America's survey results from last year revealed that over 65% of employees find it difficult to concentrate because of their work environment. That's compared to 46% of respondents who said that back in 2018. Now keep in mind, most employers are not providing a safe environment for employees who live with mental health conditions. Over 56% of employees didn't feel that their employers provide a safe and welcome environment for employees who live with mental illnesses. So even if you're self-employed, what kind of environment and accommodations are you giving yourself that allow you to work at your best level? That's something to consider. Creating a welcoming environment for employees who live with mental health conditions requires a change in culture, and a change in culture requires thoughtful leadership and substantial investment. Employees are feeling the financial strain of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a recent report from MHA, nearly 60% of employees worry about having enough money to pay for their expenses. This is a one-way ticket to Stressville. Stress. Stress. Think it's all in the head? Well, you're actually partly right. Stress is in the head. The problem is it spreads. The impact of stress is real and it's painful. From the head down to your toes. The constant headaches, lack of energy, sadness, your skin, problems that might cause you to become even more isolated. Muscle and joint tension. Now, if you're like me, you have chronically sore muscles in your back and your neck, and when you're sitting at a computer all day, that doesn't really help. And when you look at last year, we couldn't even go to the massage therapists who we usually rely on to help us feel more relaxed. Stress affects the heart and blood pressure, your stomach, your pancreas. When your pancreas are impacted by stress, you have an increased risk of diabetes. Your intestines, your reproductive system. If you're trying to have a family, this is a serious issue. And your overall immune system are all affected by stress. All of these factors impact a person's quality of life. Now, do you ever walk around and wonder, why do I feel so drained and uninspired? I just feel blah. People are prone to burnout from their jobs and life circumstances because it's not so much the circumstances, it's because they are attempting to navigate those circumstances in unsustainable ways. They're trying to do it without proper rest, without the proper support and structure in their daily job or their personal life routines. We can't trick our bodies. They know their limits. When you try to outsmart your body, you'll miss the warning signs of that creeping blah. What's going to happen is you'll detach from those you love. Your work production will suffer. Depression and anxiety will increase. Your overall health will deteriorate. You'll lose interest in your hobbies and the things that once brought you joy and inspiration. All right, I focused a lot on negative things. Let's shift and let's think about a healthy ideal. So, ask yourself, what's your healthy ideal for your physical and mental health and work-life balance? Let's start with your health. Get to the baseline. Have that checkup if you're able. Know where you stand, especially if you've put tests and readings off over this last year. During the pandemic, I wouldn't go anywhere near a medical facility. I was so weirded out. I told you, I'm a germaphobe. But now we're seeing the effects of that type of avoidance behavior. Doctors are warning of the effects of a year without regular checkups. They're seeing worsening chronic conditions among their patients. So, reclaim your time for your health. Women, let's get real. Have you had a mammogram? Stop putting it off. And guys, you too, stop putting off your guy tests. They're important. Protect your mind. That creeping blah, it might be fatigue, you might be dehydrated, or there could be more serious underlying health issues, but honestly, you'll never know unless you face your health in order to bring greater balance to your life. It could be depression, even trauma. Trauma, you say? Absolutely. Like I mentioned, I'm in the US, and over the last 15 months or so in the US, we've had a rather volatile time, to say the least. You may have heard the name of George Floyd. George Floyd was killed by a police officer, and millions of people saw the horrific event because a teenage girl taped it in real time on her cell phone. It wasn't long after before that horrible scene was on constant loop across social media and television. Now, if you think the images of violence, burning cities, and chaos don't affect your overall sense of balance and wellness, you're going to think again. Sure, you'll know what's going on in the world. You'll know the threats of climate change and all the other things happening, but too much of it will leave you feeling hopeless, isolated, and maybe angry. One of the experts who presented at one of our programs last summer, she spoke about the George Floyd event, and she warned the audience. She said, the mere witnessing of a traumatic event in person or even on a small screen or device can leave the witness with post-traumatic stress symptoms like your heart rate changes, panic, sleep disturbances, flashbacks. It doesn't even matter if you weren't there when it happened. Just seeing that type of human suffering over and over again, it'll affect you. Guard your mind. So I encourage you to take inventory of the images, people, places, experiences, even the foods and substances that you are allowing into your life on a daily basis. They may be draining your energy and health. And take real inventory of your mental health. And I have a great resource for you too. It's free, it's private, and it's not a diagnosis. I repeat, it's not a diagnosis, but it is a tool that may give you insight into your mental health, and you can use it to start a discussion with your doctor. So here's the link. Go to this site and take a mental health screening. There you can review a battery of tests that you can take in the privacy of your own home. Tests like a depression test, a stress test, ADHD test. Now, a condition like that may be draining you if you have it. Reclaim your time. Reclaim this moment to define for yourself what balance and wellness look like. If you can't see it, how on earth can you aim for it? And don't be afraid to sit with yourself and ponder. Do you remember when we were kids? And you weren't afraid to ruin your clothes by lying in the grass. You would stare aimlessly at the sky and daydream over and over again about things that made you happy, things that stimulated you, and things you were looking forward to. Remember that? Then why did you stop? Did you stop because someone told you to grow up, get serious? That happened to me once. Well, actually, that happened to me several times. But did you stop because someone told you your dreams weren't practical? Okay, I just saw Richard Branson go to outer space in a jet with his company logo on it. He was surrounded by his coworkers, and what did he say after the flight? Afterwards, he said through teary eyes that he dreamed of that moment as a child. He dreamt of making that trip. He saw it. Every child is an artist full of expression and authenticity. Every child is a dreamer, a scientist, an explorer. They are until a jaded adult voice tells him or her to grow up and get practical. Be practical. With the rising number of depression and anxiety, I'm not so sure I'm going to follow that advice. Now, I'm not saying abandon responsibility and commitment. I'm just saying start imagining what your life can be again. Why aren't you working the career you feel prepared, trained, and able to do? Why didn't you start the company? Why didn't you take that offer? The offer that would have made your job easier and your daily efforts more efficient. Why did you turn down that lunch date or that new hairdo? Why didn't you try? What is that limiting voice, and whose is it? Whoever it is, tell them to shut up, because they are preventing you from finding that peace, that joy, and that balance that you deserve to experience. So reclaim your time. Reclaim this moment for yourself. The thing about being an adult is that you are CEO of your life. The priorities, my friend, rest where you place them. So don't look to the left, don't look to the right, certainly don't look behind you. Finding the professional resources, the guidance, and the boundaries, and the help you need for balance, it's all up to you. Okay, so here's my parting advice. Take off your shoes. Go ahead, take off your shoes. If you've got people in the room with you who you might offend, then keep them on. But if you can, take off your shoes. Now firmly place your feet on the earth. If you can stand, go ahead. I can't because of the camera. Place your feet on the ground. And let all the stress that is in your body, let it just drain down through your body, down to your feet, and into the earth. The earth can handle it. Let it all sink down. And as you feel that stress sinking, I want you to breathe. One of the simplest things that we forget so often. Breathe. Breathe with me. Breathe in. And hold it at the top. Hold, hold, hold. And breathe out. Let's do it again. Breathe in. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And breathe out. Keep doing it. I want you to feel that air filling you. Breathe in. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Breathe out. This breath is all you have. All you have is right now. Breathe in. And as you exhale, let all the rest of that stress drain down to the ground. Breathe out. In this moment, give yourself permission to be free of the stress and worry and anything that's keeping you from feeling balance, anything that's keeping you off of your true purpose. Let it go because it's blocking your view. Reclaim your time to focus on your life, your health, your purpose, and your well-being. Thank you for joining me. I'll put up some resources. I hope that you visit them. And I hope that you continue to reclaim your precious time. Bye.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? The red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web? It runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Welcome back. Hi, Mariah. That was such a great presentation, and it was so timely to talk about everything that we've been through just collectively. And obviously with this collective experience, it's touched each of us individually in such dramatic ways, and to kind of bring that back to really looking at yourself and the challenges that it's brought to us, and kind of really looking at how we're handling all of that. So thank you very much for all of that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you talked about day-to-day ways of kind of handling stress and handling the challenges. I mean, even with everything that happened, there's still the normal life stresses beyond all of that. And I think some of those lessons are really important. Like if somebody was just getting started with sort of that self-care, what would you say would be like the first thing that someone should do?
I think this sounds difficult, but it's simple. Just being honest with yourself about what you need, getting comfortable. And I guess what I mean by that, the number of hours of sleep that you need to function, the things as simple as hydration, the natural things that you need. But also too, I feel like a lot of times we invite difficulty in our lives by not being comfortable saying no to people. Be honest with yourself about the things in your life that are necessary and things that, are bringing unnecessary stress and rush into your lives. I guess that would be a good place to start. But then, the basics, just take an inventory. How am I eating? How am I resting? What am I making time for? What can be rescheduled? I think that would be a great start.
Sleep.
I don't know what that is.
Sophia, how much sleep did you get last night?
More than I've gotten in a while.
Oh, really? Wow. Sophia was just sharing before the show that last night was a little restless. So, that was, as and I'm in like kind of in a different stage of life, but after having a couple of kids who didn't sleep like right up to the top of like the number one thing. Like if I don't sleep, if I have even just like a few hours that I miss, it changes the next day so dramatically now. Yeah. So I feel like, yes, that sleep thing is definitely important.
I think I'm preaching to myself with that because, I'm not an 8-hour a night person. I wish I was, but I realized for myself that, burning the midnight oil, the lure and attractiveness of that, it gets old. Once you hit 40, that's for the birds. Like I realize like the attention that I'm able to give to an activity the next day, I'm not getting sleep because I've slept for 4 hours the night before. So this is something that I'm learning for myself right now. So
yeah,
I am as well.
Enjoy those those fast rebound mornings that you have, Sophia, because I remember being able to do that, but it's just, I don't know. I think as you get older, it just gets harder and harder, and you have to like really set those boundaries of like what is acceptable and what you can't deal with. So one of the things that I do, like as I have to set boundaries with my time as someone who's working, someone who's got a family and a house to take care of and a dog and cats. I have to set boundaries, and sometimes, communicating that, my family understands, but sometimes communicating that with other people can be challenging, like saying, no, this is my time. And from like 7 to 7:30 every morning, I can't answer emails. I can't get on a call with someone in Europe. I can't do those things because I need that time for me. Otherwise, I just can't for the rest of the day. And so I'd rather have 8 hours of being able to say yes than to, say yes for 30 minutes and have it throw me off. Mariah, how would you suggest like dealing with people who, or dealing with situations of people who don't understand that, or like just being able to set boundaries?
Well, I think there probably are different categories of people. There are some people who just flat out won't respect your boundaries, period. And to some degree, and I know that there are work relationships and there are personal relationships, to some degree, if they can't respect you, then they gotta go. I mean, or you put them in adult timeout, whatever, cut them out of your life long enough so that, you can recalibrate. And like the image that I have about this is, when you're on an airplane and you get that spiel about if the plane loses oxygen, loses whatever I forgot what the spiel is, but you should, and if you're traveling with a child, you should make sure that you have the mask on yourself before you place the mask on the child. You have to do what you have to do to be your best healthy self. And so I think if it's a work environment, communication. Communication is always key. And I think, I don't want to boil it down to being a man or a woman, but I think sometimes we women are afraid that, if I tell this person this is my boundary, they won't like me, they won't want to work with me, they won't hire me, they won't, but you're no good to anybody else, you're no good to any job, you're no good to any personal relationship if you are withering away. Because you're so, I mean, it's just I think it's just a decision one has to make. You're just communicating.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. So Sophia, I have questions, but if you have questions, feel free to jump in. So another question that like something that comes up often in my life is, I have a number of different things that I have to manage and a number of things that I have to prioritize. But oftentimes I'll find situations where I have, there's too many, A1 position on the spreadsheet priorities. How would you suggest someone deal with something like that?
Prioritizing the main thing you have to do. Well, I'm old school. I love I have that old school calendar, like the teacher calendar, with like the two-sided book. For me, it's easier to look at everything. I think the company's even called at a glance. I need to see what's coming. So for me, creating that list, looking at a calendar, prioritizing a lot of people are more techno savvy, and I'm not as well versed with it. There's many tools that can help you prioritize and weigh the amount of effort and time that you'll have to put into, if it's a work project, and then also those regular things in your life, those regular time claimers. But whatever it is, I think, again, it goes back to making sure you work in what time and what activities you need to recharge. Because when you are recharged, you're so much more effective. One of the goals that I've set for myself this summer is to just get fit, especially post-pandemic. What do I enjoy doing? I've enjoyed sports my whole entire life, but I don't really play sports that much anymore because I'm not in school. I don't have a natural. And so it's just even finding a tennis class. It's something for me it's a set time that the class will be. I'll be recharged. It forces me to get the rest that I need and the hydration and the health that I need. And then I'm going to be so much better armed and prepared to meet those priorities. And again, we were commenting during the presentation, when you are your best self, when you are healthy, you think clearer. And so for me, having that exercise, having that quiet time, meditation time, you owe it to yourself to get your head clear. There's a reason why so many cultures and religions around the world prioritize meditation and stillness and quiet. And I think in our culture, we make excuses for not taking that time. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Can I get an amen, Sophia? You look like you're.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my culture is the one of push and push until you get to the end. So absolutely.
Yeah, until your body says stop.
Yeah. All right. I have a question here from Emily Hunkler. She says she would love to hear how you have managed to maintain a good work-life balance when there's a lot going on. Job, acting, family, etc. It's a juggling act and hard not to drop the balls.
It's true. Emily knows that well about me. Truthfully, it's been some trial and error. Trying some things, trying to fit in certain things, and then schedule falling apart or myself falling apart. Sometimes too, and I think especially we as remote workers forget the value of leaning on another person to help us. Sometimes you just need an outside perspective to help you prioritize. Emily in particular, she's actually literally my manager. So, we have, as individuals, we have weekly check-ins. We sort of look at what's on the horizon, what's on the agenda, and that helps me to prioritize. And it's cool to have someone who, can step back and say, yeah, you don't really need to focus on that. Or if you focus on X, Y, and Z they'll fall into place and it'll flow so much better. So, I mean, if you're married or have a partner or you're just a good friend, if not a boss, just someone to just, bounce ideas off of to help you prioritize the things in your life. Sometimes you need that outside perspective.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah, I think a lot, and I think I think you're right about the pandemic, just kind of like isolating us so that, we're not connecting. So there's not that there's this illusion of not having support or being on your own. And that's not true, right? We're all interconnected. Even if we don't talk to anybody, we're still connected to nature and connected to the earth and connected to all that is here, right? We can't divorce ourselves from the collective whole of all that is. It's just you're here, you're a part of it.
Just ignore the trees, all of outside.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all an illusion. But I think a lot of people, and I think that's contributed a lot to people feeling isolated and feeling depressed and feeling like they can't do it, has been this illusion that has been a part of this. And obviously probably not very intentional that it's been that way, but it feels that way, but it's not true. And so I think the reminder that you gave us in your presentation that we are all, that there is a support system out there, and it just takes a little bit of extra effort to make sure that support system is there for you and to lean on that. So I think that was just a great thing to remind us all of, and meditation.
Yes. And let me just add into that too. Don't be ashamed or scared if you need a professional to help you. A professional therapist to help you set your life priorities and your perspectives. The resource that I included in the presentation, MHAnational.org, that's Mental Health America National.org, has a plethora of resources that people can go to for their area, because there are peer support programs out there. There are resources out there that people can rely on. A lot of them are free or very low cost, but don't try to go it alone.
Right.
There's help in every direction, and especially for individuals who you may have the additional challenge of a mental health condition or could be in recovery. Don't free yourself from the burden of self-judgment, because there is support, and you can most likely find something close to you, if not virtually, to give you that support that you need.
Right. And there is the support of Big Orange Heart, which is
Absolutely.
the reason
Yeah.
we're all here. So definitely get involved with the Slack. If you're not on there already, reach out to the organization because there are resources here as well. Thank you so much, Mariah. This was such a great presentation, and it was lovely to meet you. Our thanks to our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy, Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, our multilingual partner, Weglot, our continental sponsors, GiveWP and Yoast, and our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Memberships Pro. Please be sure to visit their tents and chat with them. You might even win some prizes. Don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth brought to us by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from our sponsors. And thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors, all listed on that website. You all make our big orange hearts full.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? The red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web? It runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
Put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Next up on our stage are community interviews with Marco Barakal, and once again, I apologize if I mispronounce these names, Pooja Darashri, Meher Bala, Paul Lacey, and Robert Windish. Marco Barakal is a WordPress fanatic. He's used WordPress for over 10 years out of Costa Rica. He's also an organizer for WordCamp San Jose, Costa Rica, which is one of the most popular WordCamps in Latin America. He loves pushing the web forward with what he knows, has learned, and has given to others. He is currently employed by Green Geeks and does some web development of his own. When he's not in WordPress mode, he's a family guy. Loves his kids, his partner, and being around his friends.
Pooja Darashi is the co-founder at WP Vibes and has 7 years of working experience with WordPress. She's a WordPress lover with a passion to help others and contributes in every possible way. She's a regular contributor to the WordPress community and is actively involved in several Make teams such as Training, Polyglots, and WPTV. She is also a co-organizer at the Ajmer WordPress meetup group.
Meher Bala is a website consultant and front-end web developer specializing in WordPress. She builds and maintains premium websites for her clients and delivers them on tight deadlines and with care. She is a strong communicator, highly motivated, and very organized. Along with a creative flair for design and aesthetics, she also has an analytical mind to find solutions to fit the needs of clients and help them look ahead to their long-term planning. She co-hosts the podcast Unplug Tech, which seeks to amplify inspiring and fascinating stories to friendly folk in the tech world. Meher also supports the WordPress community as a member of a number of Make teams and contributes to releases.
Robert Windisch, it can be spotted by wearing his trademark hat at conferences. He's a big fan of hidden WordPress features like multi-site. He's part of the German-speaking WordPress community.
Paul Lacey is a WordPress expert, designer, speaker, Guinness World Record holder, and podcaster. He helps niche agencies and leading WordPress/tech industry brands design and develop beautiful websites. Brands he has worked with include GeneratePress, Beaver Builder, Pentagram, Gitronics, and Church of England.
And our thanks to Joe Casabona and Tracy Apps for these community interviews.
Hey everybody, Joe Casabona here with another WordFest live community interview. I'm here with Marco Berrocal. He is the partner relationship manager over at Green Geeks. Marco, how are you today?
Good. Awake without coffee though, but good.
I'm drinking some right here. I always
didn't have the time.
Start my day. Yeah. Which shout out to Michelle Frechette, right? She has WP Coffee Talk. She's the one who organized these interviews. So have a little coffee for Michelle. So before we get into some of the questions around remote work and mental health, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. I've been a WordPress developer for over 11 years, I would say. Back in the day, there wasn't a noticeable gap between content management systems such as Joomla, Drupal, and WordPress, and I had to make the decision because I was doing websites, and the CMS thing was getting more and more trendy kind of thing, and I had to make a choice as to which one to stick with. And after reading a couple of books, I think it was one of the O'Reilly books they have a couple of development books. I started to read about WordPress and I said, wow, this is really, really nice. This is really, really easy. And after that, it's been a roller coaster ride that hasn't stopped since, I can't even tell you. I mean, it's like woo, it's been a ride. It's been a ride. So that is the beginning. And currently I've been working for Green Geeks for over 2 years. Like you mentioned previously, I worked in partner relations. I used to attend a lot WordCamps, both in the US and Latin America, and I would reach out to fellow community members, talk about WordPress stuff. And ever since the pandemic has hit, we do the online thing, but I also do a lot of webinars, screencasts, about development, about WordPress stuff, and I also do screencasts, like quick tutorials as to how to accomplish certain things, either on our platform or using WordPress.
Fantastic. That's great. And speaking of WordPress and technology, the WordFest live event is really focused on WordPress and the community. What does the community mean to you as both a developer and a partner manager?
I would have to quote. I don't remember who said it. He said it in a WordCamp US. He said a Newton quote, which more or less said, "All that I've done or all that I am, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants."
Mhm.
And I think that sums up pretty much my sentiment about WordPress. You know, there's some amazing people that know tremendously, like a lot more than you could ever imagine. And I would say the spirit of sharing this information, of helping each other out, has been at the core of all of this. And this is why I participate in my local community here in Costa Rica and San Jose. And I give meetups as well, and attend to talks, you know, and give them, you know, whenever there's a chance. It's been a little different this pandemic, though. I gotta say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all, well, at least the folks who really like going to in-person events, like myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very extroverted. I don't know if anybody could tell just by looking at me, but you know, I've missed the in-person events, and that part of the community obviously means a lot to me.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is still good. This is still okay. It keeps the spirit alive, but the whole in-person thing, it's I don't know. I don't even know how I'm going to react once it's back.
I know, and it's every day we inch closer to that, so I'm really excited about that. And
yeah, me too.
On that same token, you know, being a remote worker, you know, it seems like you are a remote. Well, I guess we're all remote workers these days, but you know, being a remote worker is something very common in the WordPress space. And I know for myself, you know, that can have an impact on mental health. I moved to an area where my wife grew up, so most of my friends are not from around here, and so not being able to go to events, working at home, not having friends close by, can weigh a little bit on you. You know, can you speak a little bit to the importance of mental health as it relates to remote workers, and maybe things that you do to stay healthy mentally and physically?
I hope I am healthy mentally and physically. Well, no, I think I am.
Yeah.
I would say, first of all, I think exercise is one of the most important things. I do it out of precisely that, the physical and mental. It gives you like a balance on things. So I swim roughly a mile a day. Well, you know, for an hour, like a mile and a half. It really relaxes you. It really, like, when you leave that pool, you are like in that cloud for like the rest of the day, or whatever. It's something I really recommend to everybody, because swimming is both a aerobic and anaerobic exercise, meaning that you exercise both your muscles and obviously your lung capacity. So it's really a complete exercise. And the impact that it has on your body, it's low.
Yeah. Do you swim laps? Because I've tried swimming laps, and it's hard. You know, you got to build up.
I do. And sometimes I go to competitions, because Costa Rica has a lot of beaches. So you go to open waters, like out in the sea, literally, and you swim for like a mile, 2 miles, something like that. It really depends. So yeah, it's something I do, and it's something that I would say it's the biggest thing that keeps my my sanity and my physical well-being, because it really mellows you down. And like you said, I mean, it's the physical and mental strains of working remotely. You got to find a way to do something in order to, you know, ease that off. Another thing that I do tremendously, which has a lot to do with my line of work, it's I'm taking a lot of courses. I've been taking a lot of courses. I've been learning a lot of new stuff. Like, for example, from a development perspective, you know, WordPress is migrating more to JavaScript a lot. So I'm venturing more into that. You know, I learned how to use XD. I used to prototype with Photoshop for, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
So I had to make, exactly. So I know you laughed, so you can relate. So making the transition to XD was tremendous. Doing this whole screencast thing has forced me to use like software programs such as Adobe at Premiere Pro, doing that stuff. It keeps you engaged. I think when your mind is not focused onto something, you let some thoughts creep in, and that's when things can tend to go a little bit south.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just echo what you said about kind of the exercise. I know, like, when I'm having I try to take a walk or play the drums every day, and when I'm having a particularly bad day, playing the drums helps. I listen to my angry music.
Really?
And I get to
Really?
beat up on something. So yeah.
I was thinking about a drummer yesterday, this Led Zeppelin guy. He's one of the best I heard. That's what I read. I forgot his name, but yeah.
His name is escaping me right now. I'm like, coffee hasn't kicked in yet, but
bone something, bony or bone. I don't remember. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And it's such a fun activity. I don't play in a band or anything, so I don't have to play perfectly. I just play along with the music, and it's
yeah. I also read a lot. I read about different topics that are not related to my line of work, so it also helps with the mental thing. Of course, I miss traveling. It was beautiful, but it'll be back. Yeah,
it'll be back soon. Absolutely. On the topic of reading, I did just finish a book that I think helps with overthinking and having those negative thoughts. It's called Soundtracks by John Acuff. So
okay.
If there's the opportunity to link it somewhere with this talk, I'll do that. But it was
sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great read, and I strongly recommend it. Well, Marco, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for sharing.
All right, and have a good time, everybody. Cheers.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody, thanks so much for attending WordFest Live. You can catch all of the talks and the rest of the community interviews over at wordfest.live. And thanks so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Cheers. Bye-bye.
So we have this wonderful event. We have with us the GoDaddy Pro team. You can learn more about GoDaddy Pro and the sponsors and tables and stuff like that. But let's find out about you all personally. That's what I care about. That's what's important to me. It's all about the WordPress community. And that's what I love about this event. Tell your name and where your location, and just a little bit about what you do. Why don't we start with Robert?
Okay, I've just don't want to just jump in because I can talk for half an hour and only mention briefly my name. So yeah, my name is Robert. I'm from Germany, currently also in Germany, and I do work in a WordPress agency as a living.
I'm Meher Bala from Mumbai, India, and a front-end developer and co-host of Unplugged Tech, which is also a media partner of WordFest.
Hi, I'm Pooja Dirashri. I'm from India, and I'm web developer at WP Vibes, and now learning SEO and marketing.
Hi everyone, great to meet you all. I've not actually met anyone here in person or on a Zoom call situation before, so this is what I love about this. So I'm Paul, and a bit of personal stuff is myself and my family tend to collect rescue animals. So we've got 3 chickens, 3 cats, a dog, 2 rabbits, and various other ones in the past. So we enjoy that kind of stuff. We love our animals. Other personal thing, I'm a Guinness World Record holder for turning up in a Christmas jumper at the same time loads of other people turned up in Christmas jumpers, and even got the certificate down here to prove it. So legit Guinness World Record holder for doing nothing of any talent, of course.
I was like, I saw your bio. I was like, okay, what exactly? So thank you for clearing that up.
You should lead with that. Be all like, so.
Yeah, well, hey, guess what?
Guess what?
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I mean, you have to actually buy the certificate if you want it. I guess if you did, the 100-meter sprint, they'd probably give you the certificate. But if you just turn up and, do something for the extra pages, then you have to spend $15 on it. But super proud about that. And then in terms of WordPress, I'm a designer, developer. I used to run an agency, which I shut down in December. And these days I'm more of like a solopreneur, and I do design. I do some work with Beaver Builder, as in the company Beaver Builder. And I'm also co-host for WP Builds is a news kind of show, panel show called This Week in WordPress, alongside Nathan Wrigley and other people who we have on from time to time. So that's I guess what I do. Yeah.
I love the fact that this panel is like, have you all, like, do any of you know each other before this?
I know Robert. I know Pooja.
Yeah. And I bumped into Tracy several times.
This is true. Yep. Yep. I'm everywhere. I just show up. I'm like, hey. Does everyone here, do you all work remotely for your work?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, so how I would love to hear some tips that how you keep your mental well-being while working remotely.
Personally, I like working remotely. I'm one of those introverted extrovert sort of thing, or extroverted introvert, depending on what day of the week it is. So I like to hide when I need to, but I love things like this. I love panels and doing, bits of public speaking and stuff. And but I need my hidey space when I need it. So sometimes I can appear to be all over the internet doing panels and talks and stuff like that. And my sort of real life friends are like, where have you gone? Like, you're not answering any of my messages. I'm sure, I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody, but I think if you can, recently I found that making my space really nice, which I've done more for like podcasting and stuff and backgrounds. And so this is, the rest of the room doesn't look like this. It's kind of, oh my gosh. Everything else is just outside these cropped edges here. But when it is tidy in here, it's such a lovely room to work in. I've got, my music and my big space picture there I can look at and remind myself, where I am in there. And there's a picture on the wall. It's just that way, actually. It says never give up. And so I got my stuff and I've got my hidey hole and that I think try and create a good space for yourself is a good one, which isn't always easy, especially in COVID times, if you were like stuck at home and you had no choice about that. But if you can invest some time in figuring out how can I make the best of this where I am, then that's a plus, I think.
That's a really great tip, because I agree. I have my office space. I rent an office space in downtown Milwaukee. So I was really lucky during COVID, because this is my own office. It's in a shared space, but there's not many people around. So I was able to actually get out of my house and go have a sense of normalcy and be able to have more control over creating my space to feel good. And because everything else felt awful. So I love that. I really love that tip.
So I have been working from home since a very long time. But in the past, when you cut yourself away from everyone, you miss, the interaction when you are in an office. Because for 10 years, I was in a 9-to-5 office. So, for me, connecting with people online, especially during COVID, I think for me, it's late nights, post 11:30 in the night, and there will be a lot of calls. When 1 or 2 calls, Robert was there, he's asking, what is the time in your side? And I would be like, 4 a.m. He's like, don't you want to sleep? So yeah.
Valid question, just for the record, valid question.
Yes, very valid question, but I'm a night bird, so
love it.
I love to stay awake in the night. You will not catch me in the morning much.
Same.
So just interacting with people, get that few hours from your schedule and, either talk to people on a call or a Zoom call or just text saying, hi, how are you doing? Because people need that in today's time,
Absolutely. And it helps if I have this problem where I'll answer texts in my head or send them. And so it helps if you actually it helps if you actually send the messages and not just say them in your head. So just a pro tip for everyone out there that
Yeah, like even one of my friends, I send him a message. I know he's replied in his head, but he's not physically typed it.
That's
so
a good
then I
friend.
pick up the phone and said, you saw my message, can you just let me know the answer to it? So
Spectacular. Yeah.
I'd say in response to that about connecting with people and that, sometimes you find yourself so busy. I certainly did when I had my agency. I was like a right mess mentally then. But I think it was Corey Miller. I heard him say once something like, if you're thinking of someone, just thinking of them for whatever reason, just send them a message. Just say, hey, I was just thinking of you. And obviously some context helps as well. And whenever I have remembered to do that, only good things came of it. So even if I was super busy, hey, I was just thinking of you. And, and then we booked a call or we just had a quick chat on Messenger or something like that. And the day was better, because you were thinking, I guess, about human contact and you didn't have any. And then you instigated something. And so that's always been a nice tip if you're on your own. And
I agree.
I
got some messages and those really, really brightened my day.
Generally, I'll work from office. But last 1.5 years, the COVID situation is here. So we tend to work from home. So in mental well-being, I do what I love. Actually, I love gardening. I do gardening and interact with people, family and friends. And also, I love to contribute in WordPress. So I get so much time to contribute in COVID situation. So I contribute more and more and get involved with community as well.
Gardening. I just did a bunch of yard work and I feel like I was sore for 3 days. I couldn't move. So I should probably do that more often.
Yeah, I involved more in last 1.5 years. Earlier, I was not that much involved in the community.
Oh, yeah. I had a similar, I was not a part of the community for quite a few years. And when I found it, it kind of changed my life. So love that. Robert, what about you?
Yeah, talking as the distributed work grandpa here. Just for the record, working distributed since 2009. So as the years has 2 O's. So that's a long time. So would like glasses for New Year still looked good. So the as someone who is like really long working this way, is like you need to your daily routines, and you need to like know to whom you can connect if you have questions, if you have struggles, if you have something else, and the most like important thing for me, I think for new people, because like I'm so old in this, I'm so used to this, is the reminder for everyone who has a struggle with that to be that they remember, like as you like heard here, that you are not alone. You are physically maybe alone currently, but there are like thousands of people that you can like reach out to, or let you a few like a bunch of you that you easily can call or can message, like as said here. And so that's like my most thing for like people who have a struggle with that. Just a reminder, you are not alone. It feels like that, but it's not. You can just like reach out to people.
I agree on that. That is definitely a struggle I've had as well. And a friend has done, actually a couple different friends who've done this, where, because sometimes I have that kind of extrovert introvert as well. And sometimes I'm like, to talk or kind of like make a conversation would be just too much energy for me. So I've just had a Zoom call or FaceTime open and work at the same time. Just mute it and just know that you could just see someone else that's there, that they're working to. And it's just like, just that was so much more comforting. And it really helped prove that point of, no, I'm not alone. Really. Well, thank you so much. This is a very short time with you all, but I appreciate you all for taking time out of your schedules and staying up late for just giving us an insight on more of our WordPress community. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
It was a pleasure.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? the red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web, it runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Next up, we have someone special with us, Div Manicum, who has pledged to walk 24,000 steps in our 4 days to raise funds for mental health. So Div did this walk from Monday to Thursday as part of a challenge we've run over the last month called the 24,000 Steps to Mental Health Challenge, where members of the community pledged to walk a certain number of steps to raise funds for mental health. Div Manicum has led product marketing efforts in startups and Fortune 500 technology companies, and was recognized as one of the top 50 product marketing influencers in 2019 and 2020 by Product Marketing Alliance. She is passionate to empower a mindful team and foster a vulnerable culture where everyone feels their voice is heard. Hello, Div. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Sophia. Nice to meet you too.
So we have a couple questions for you. Let me pull them up real quick. So we just want to hear a little bit about kind of how you heard about the challenge, why you took the challenge, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And first and foremost, I want to thank WordFest Live and the Big Orange Heart for this opportunity, because I wouldn't have gotten to 24,000 steps if it wasn't for them this week. I started off maybe like with 3,000 steps every Monday and Tuesday, and then I was like, oh, it's Wednesday, I shouldn't get my act together. And then I needed some sort of accountability, so I actually shared it with my team, because I never let my team down is what I've learned, but it's easy for me to let myself down. And I took the challenge primarily for two reasons. Last year, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And when it happened, I didn't quite know what that meant, because I was really successful at my work and I kept achieving all the results and outcomes that every organization was expecting me to do. And somehow it hit me, and it didn't really make much of a sense. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But when it did, I took a promise to myself to help others and help folks who are probably not as lucky as I was. I was lucky to actually have the comfort of my family. And I also want to dedicate this walk to my parents, because I don't think if it wasn't for them that I would have recovered in a month and a half. And I literally, it's like your system reboot. I literally had to reboot myself and learn how to read again, like baby steps, which I think was initially scary. I did a lot of 100 days of emotional journaling to just get whatever negative thoughts was in my head out on paper. And this year on my birthday, I took another promise to myself to like, okay, I should write this and try to get this out there and help other folks that experience similar things and just don't know where to go. And so that's why I want to thank the Big Orange Heart organization for this opportunity. When my sister shared this with me, I didn't quite know what to expect, but I was like, oh, sounds great. I am always talking about one step at a time and one day at a time. That was my mantra for the whole year. And with the pandemic, I would say this, I took on a new role last year. And I was like, I have to put all the disciplines, I have to set all the rules and regulations I need so that I don't go back to those same patterns and same habits. And my team is worldwide. So I had a chance to literally, like, you're seeing one wall, which is my happy place. And I kind of use this as my background because I want everybody in a Zoom meeting or in a Microsoft Teams meeting to be in their happy place. And the other side of my wall is all about travel. And I never got to get out of where I am in the past year, but I got to travel just through my team's eyes because we had team members in 10 countries. And so I also want to say that everybody goes through some part of this in their life and we just don't talk about it. So I want to help break the stigma that's there about mental health. We are often good about saying, hey, we have physical health issues and things like that. But when it comes to mental health, we always shy away, or everyone says the issue and then they just walk around it. So I want people to be comfortable about it because there's nothing wrong. It's just a part of who we are and we should be able to embrace it and also help others that need the same help. So thank you all for this opportunity. And I also wanted to share that I was able to complete my 25,000 steps today morning and also get to, my goal was $100 and I was able to get to $255 as of 1 p.m. today. So I'm super excited and I want to thank everybody for their generosity and for actually helping raise awareness in this.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And thank you so much for setting such a great example. I just hearing your story and everything that you've gone through and how you just kind of made that commitment to yourself and to your own mental health, like that came first, is so inspiring. I think so many people get, they put themselves second, or they should themselves into thinking that they have to do all of these other things first and that their self comes last. And I think just setting that example has been amazing.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I'm with you. I think everyone is in the same where we are like self-care comes last. And that's why I wanted to write a book about, and this is my working title. It's A Broken Teacup, Filling the Cracks with Mindfulness, Compassion, and Self-Care. So hopefully I'll get to it now that I've committed to this on a live show.
I love it. That's fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, that is so great. Now, how can other people support Big Orange Heart? Is there something that people can do?
I know the challenge is one, right? So we all have, not just me, there have been other phenomenal folks that have participated in the challenge. I've got to meet a few folks yesterday in the green room. Just as Big Orange Heart is doing this, I'm sure there are other organizations, right? We are here. I think this year has shown us that remote work is for real, and we shouldn't just assume that people who work remotely should be okay by themselves. So just taking a minute, and I was just listening to the session right before, right? Take a minute to just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. How are you doing? Are you doing okay? I think that was the biggest blessing I had when I was down, because I had my support system just reach out to me like, if you don't want me to text you, let me know, but I'm just thinking of you. And that's all. Like, they were like, you don't even have to reply to my text. And I was like, I appreciated that, because as much as I wanted to, I didn't have the mental capacity to reply to them. So using opportunities like that, I would say organizations should also do more. I know in the organizations that I'm part of, we all talk about well-being, and we have mindfulness programs and different things that we're doing, but just being more people first, and not just saying that as a value, but actually truly being people first and saying, hey, we're going through a pandemic. Yes, the US is fortunate to kind of, I think we are imagining that we are coming out of it, but the rest of the world is still hurting. So I would encourage everyone has somebody in a different country, just reach out and ask how they're doing, because I got to see the whole world and how we were changing, right? Like even today, my team members in the UK, in Argentina, they're still in lockdown. They're going through difficult times. And if you are assuming that everything's back to normal in the US, it doesn't give you that leveling playing field that we need. And so that's where I would encourage everybody to kind of push a little, but at least just ask, how are you doing? And be human. That's all. Be human, be empathetic. That's all we could ask for at this point in time. And not just for this year, but for all the times. Because everyone goes through some of this in their lifetime.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Dev. I think we're out of time, but I wanted to thank you for sharing your journey and for being that inspiration, and also sharing how to support this organization that is so important for the WordPress community. And we're all so thankful that you are here. And we also want to thank our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, our multilingual partner, Weglot, our continental sponsors, GiveWP and Yoast, and our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Membership Pro. Be sure to visit their tents and chat with them. You might even win some prizes. Don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth. That is brought to us by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from our sponsors. Thank you to our media partners and to our micro sponsors. They are listed on the website. You all make our Big Orange Hearts full.